fields that I remember experiencing since I've been in the densities. There's a lot of places I don't remember in this body. I can't hold all the memory in this body. But everything is more, well, first of all, it's bigger than it is here. Our bodies are larger. There's more space between our atoms. And everything is larger. The trees, the plants, the fruit. You have fruit like apples and lemons. You begin to get the Alice in Wonderland feeling. Did I shrink? No, you grew. So these are real places. And I'm trying to show you with these diagrams the reality of the energy connections that help the mental body, because the mental body likes linear things. It likes information strung out in ways where there's no big gaps. It doesn't have to make leaps of faith, where it can make sense of information, which means synthesize information in an orderly fashion. So I try to show you these things to help the mental body integrate the rest of what the spiritual consciousness knows and what the emotional body and the physical body need to know if they're going to be able to experience these places ever as real. Okay, let's see what I need next. How are we doing? Okay, it's time to... Okay, is it? Let me see. Wait a minute. Okay, yeah, I'll put this up for a second and I'll talk about it when we get back from break. Yeah, I did that pretty good. I think 7 minutes flat on the last one. All right, this one we'll talk about when we come back from break. This is drawn from a chart called The Books of Maps and Keys. It was a book that was transcribed from the CDD plates by Joshua, the person who became known as Jesus, and it shows us the locations on our planet of the 24 primary stargates and activation sites. And our politics, when you look at our history, has everything to do with the locations of these stargates. So when we get back from the break, it's just a 10 minute, 15 minute. Okay. All right. We'll be 10 to 15 tops. That's okay. I just have to. Something's up. I don't know what. But we're. Hello. Hello in the hologram. That was very nice of you to throw me a surprise birthday party. I don't know who arranged that. It was embarrassing because I'm not used to a lot of people singing happy birthday to me. But I want to thank you for it. And for anybody that's oh gee, we just wasted a bunch of time on that. If there's anybody that feels a little bad that, we lost time, we didn't lose time. You'll still get everything you came for. Okay? I always make up for time because I've learned with this job that I have that there's a flexibility with time that's absolutely essential. And I just learned to work with it, through it, and around it. And it's not when something happens within the time frame I have, just to make sure that everything is supposed to happen within that time frame does. So because we took a little kind of sojourn into the party atmosphere and relaxing social atmosphere, that doesn't mean you're going to lose out on any workshop content or anything. And I would like to thank you for caring enough to do the birthday thing. Okay. Now. Okay, there's one thing I want to address because somebody had asked me the question, and they said it would probably be a good idea if I announced it. For people that are planning to come to the beach tonight at 9:30, first of all, we're going to meet right off the main public access point at the Siesta Key Beach, and that's if anybody doesn't know how to get there, where's the best way to get directions?
Any Phil and the local people it's Swift to Stickney, Midnight Pass, and the car parks on the left.
Could you say that again?
It's down Swift, all the way, which joins Stickney. The junction of Stickney, Swift and Stickney, you go to the right.
Okay.
You turn right, in other words. You follow Stickney as far as you can, and that comes to T-junction, where Midnight Pass Road. You turn right on Midnight Pass Road, and you follow Midnight Pass Road until Siesta Key Beach car park appears on the left. There's only one big car park down there, and it is well signposted.
Okay.
Right.
Within the group who cares enough about roundtables to sit through a workshop and learn about them so they can handle their biofields in the way that's needed responsibly. As far as, now, if anybody does want to bring people outside of it to the beach, we are going to do the thing, there's a roundtable that we're going to do Monday night, a big one, but the earlier Monday, probably around 3:30-ish, after the heat dies down a little because it's really hot during the day out there, we're going to do kind of like a free-for-all. Anybody that wants to come down the beach, we're going to come down and we're going to do something called the dunk, spin, and bury. Okay, it's a DNA amplification technique. It's a Merkaba amplification technique. One is opening, and it's called the Grual point. G-R-U-A-L, Grual, is an ancient word from Tara, from density 2, that referred to the point of center control. It was the point in Earth's planetary shields that the other stargates could be controlled from. Stargates 1 and 3 could be controlled from the center point, which was 2. To override 2, you could go up to 5, which is the other one on the center pillar. So if we look at them here, these are the stargates, and how they're, like in the planetary Templar, they're located like this. And the ones in the middle pillar are electrical gates, and they control the other ones within that density. Okay? So D5 can control these two, D8 can control these two, D12 can control all the ones below it. But the Grual points are these. And the quest for the Holy Grail stuff, what that was all about, the Holy Grail, that was part of the Arthurian legends and part of all sorts of chaos that happened even before that, ever since Atlantis, was the quest for getting control over Earth's planetary shields fully, so they could get control of the Grual point and then progressively use it to infiltrate inner Earth so they could go after the universal stargates. All right, so we were guided to Siesta Key because the Grail point was opening. It was beginning its opening cycle. And this is where the D12 frequency, it's called the hydroplasmic beam, enters at the beginning of a stellar activation cycle to begin the process of the D12 subharmonics running through the planetary grids to progressively open each of the dimensional levels of the stargates and trigger them into sequenced activation the way they're supposed to open. This the Grual activated on 5/5/2000, May 5th, 2000, and that began the process of D12 non-polarized frequency. There's one point on the planet that receives the D12 unified frequency, which means it receives a trion beam, okay, before it polarizes. And it's at the Grual point that the Grual then polarizes it into Myon and Dion fields. So that's the one place that holds the most amount of the D12 frequency in one place that you can get on Earth in density 1. Now, the waters, this location of this point in the planetary Templar, which is the planetary template, is about a quarter mile off the coast of Siesta Key. And its radius, its immediate radius, is a couple hundred miles. But the closest to epicenter you are, the stronger the frequency is. So the frequencies that are running through the grids and running through the water molecules, the water molecules are beginning to spin in the right direction there. This is a healing that will take place in the waters on the planet progressively as more D12 frequency comes through the grids. But right now, this is the one place on Earth where some of the water molecules are holding the proper Merkaba ratios, which will assist. They will talk to their units of consciousness. They will talk to the units of consciousness in your own body and help your water molecules to start doing the same thing, to facilitate what you're trying to do is getting your spin ratios back so you can get your natural particle-antiparticle balance back so you can start to integrate your physical, mental, emotional, and higher levels of your body the way they're meant to be. So what we do is we do a Merkaba exercise. We activate the Merkaba while we're in the water. It was really fun. They didn't tell us anything about this until 5/5/2000. A bunch of us just showed up. It wasn't even a workshop, but it became one, where just every couple hours there was more transmission I had to translate. Then we go back out to the beach and do other work. But it was really fun. We go out and we'd activate the Merkaba, a group of people in the water, right, in a circle. And then we do the spin, and there's a way to use the solar spirals to amplify and really amplify the amount of antiparticle frequency you're carrying in the fields. And then you do the same thing with the bottom half of the Merkaba, which is your magnetic part of your Merkaba, and it brings more of the Earth's frequencies in. It's all in the D12 subharmonic. And it's a very, very healing thing. It was given to us as a healing tool, but it also heals, activates DNA, helps to set your Merkaba properly, and helps to give you more momentum on your Merkaba, which means when you get it going in the right direction, it will hold longer if you do it in a place like this. All right. In fact, this, even if you go 1,000 miles away from it, you will still have, because you have the imprint, the energy imprint of that location coordinate now in your fields from being there. it will help to sustain and to literally affect. You will kind of be like a walking vortex going the right way, where you go into planetary grid areas that are still holding the wrong spin ratios, and your field will help to reset the right one. So we're going down it's not a mandatory thing that we have to as part of the workshop or anything, but it's to help everybody to experience this. It's like an extra gift of energy that we can give ourselves if we want to. So we go in there, we do the Merkaba thing, charge the water in our body, literally through the water molecules of the water around us. Unfortunately, it's warm at this time of year, which is really nice, really warm. Then we come back out and we amplify it. Now, quartz crystal is great for amplifying energy because it can hold a D12 charge, a D12 subharmonic charge, and it will distribute it well. The body systems have actually a quartz type base in the templates. The templates are actually made of types of subatomic particles that resonate to crystal carbon, which is diamond, a form of diamond. And when you take it to density 2, it goes into silica and silicon and those kind of things. So the silicon consciousness, or the template that's in quartz crystal, is very, very in tune with the template of humans and some of the other animal forms. Just a key has amazing sand. It's like pure white sand, because it's 99% crushed quartz crystal. And they had to analyze, like at Harvard Laboratories or something, as one of their notes on the tourist bureau thing, world-class beach. There's other white beaches, but this one has an extremely high content of crushed quartz. That's partially because many thousands of years ago, during the Atlantean period, in fact in 9558 BC was the last time, there was a large implosion of a crystal that was there, one of the main generator crystals that at the time were used in Atlantis to run the Gruel Point Templar systems. And because some of the negative groups of fallen angelics had come in and taken over, misused the energy systems, the crystal grid network blew up. So there are several scattered, very nice crystal beaches that appear in very strange places sometimes on the planet. This is one of them. There's a couple others, but they're not as pure as this one. These actually hold the memory of those times, and those times that we were a part of, the Atlantean period. So it will help us in all sorts of ways as far as bringing the memory and opening the windows of understanding between ourselves in those periods and in the periods before the problems came. So what we do is go in the water, do the thing in the water, come back out, and then we were burying each other. And we had it looked like, I think we had 10 bodies at a time or something, with just the head sticking out, laying down in the sand. It's really comfortable. It feels really nice. Just for a little bit of time, because what it will do is amplify the charge. That you just put in a D12 subharmonic charge into your water molecules. This will amplify it and exponentiate it and make it more in the body so it holds longer. It can also help you at that point if you have any types of things that you want to heal, to intend that condition. Now, we're going to work a little bit with a symbol code before we leave here tonight, before we go to the beach, the Vesica Pisces, how to begin to use this as an aid to manifesting in ways that are, first of all, good for you, and second of all, will work better than what's out there so far as teaching you how to manifest. We can use the Vesica Pisces thing that we'll learn today on Monday as far as doing the Duncan Berry cleanse thing, and it can help you to clear out specific things as well. If you hold the intention of a condition that you would like to meet its opposite and raise them both to a higher level, that means you're not attached to either the positive or negative. You're simply intending its ascension to its highest form, which would imply healing it with a condition, whatever it is, would become more and more of a benign experience. This is how you get negatives out of your life. You love them. You embrace them, bring them in, combine them with their opposite, and surrender it to whatever divine right order is in regard to this condition. If you do this with the techniques that we're going to be doing on the beach, it will amplify all the work that you do, and it's an amplification that you can take home with you. For that, if you want to bring other people in, that is fine, because that's not something that's we're not trying to put anything in the planetary grids that'll harm the grids, all right? And anybody that wants to learn this stuff is welcome. In fact, we often end up with locals kind of walking by going, "What are you doing?" It's a new healing modality. Oh, okay. Amplifies the electrical systems of the body. Oh, we leave it at that.
Just want to say what time it is again, if that's okay to be open.
Okay, that's at 3 o'clock on Monday. Yeah, Monday at 3 o'clock. Yeah, but tonight and tomorrow night, when we're going to go into like the round table probably. What time are we going to do that? That's going to be after dark. I don't want to do it. No, there's one on Monday, the Monday night one. 9:30 on Monday also. Okay, so 9:30 on Monday night, there's going to be another closed one that'll be another major round table. Now, there's going to be certain types of Kundalini activations offered. I'm getting this now on the one for Monday night as well. So again, with the round tables, they're kind of we're not an elitist group, but it does require an orientation to know what you're doing to participate. So again, please don't bring anybody that wasn't a part. Or if you bring in somebody, if there's somebody who's with you, they can watch, but they can't participate and do the stuff because it'll mess up the energy work that the group is trying to set. So there's the one day you can bring anybody you like, and the other 2 days I'd appreciate it if we just keep it with the people who know what we're doing. It also helps to avoid heckling and things like that when people see a bunch of grown-ups spinning. Kids love it because they kind of go, look at the grown-ups. They're spinning around in circles like tops. In the ancient days, there was a dignity about this stuff. Yeah, and then there's the sound tones. Yeah, then there's the sound tones. Yeah, the sound tones begin the activation of the frequencies in the DNA. So we do the sound tone rounds, and then we move that into motion, where we set the spin ratios and things. So it's really a wonderful sight to behold when we do round tables. In the whole legend of the Arthurian Grail quest, it was a real period in time where there were a group of us incarnate around 600 time period, 600 AD. It was coming to its close, and we were doing the same things then. The Knights of the Round Table were the security team that had the knowledge, and at that point you got killed trying to get the knowledge, and you had to remember it. You couldn't have it written down because it left too much. You couldn't have like these charts and things. These are ancient charts that show the locations of places on the planet where the gates are and where you do the work. We were doing them in the Arthur period. We were doing them in the Christ period. This was the real core of the Christ mission. It was resetting the Christos template into Earth's grids in hopes of getting that done in preparation for the 2000 to 2017 star activation cycle. Both of those missions failed, and it did not get finished because there was attack both times. Now, we're doing the same thing, so it may seem a little silly because we're conditioned to not picture grown-up spinning. I wonder where that propaganda came from. We're also conditioned to be very restrained with our bodies and not let them move enough, which means we're blocking energy, its natural flow in the bodies. When we begin to work with Merkaba and with round tables and even with salutations, which are the ones we do by ourselves, we don't need a group to do them with you, we start to let the body breathe energy again. Because really what we're doing, when we accelerate the spin of our Merkaba, we are accelerating how fast the flashline sequences run through our body, the flashline sequences of scalar waves turning on and off. And every time the scalar waves turn on and off and do a phase, they're bringing more sustaining energy into the body, and they're helping the body to raise frequency. Once upon a time, we were all breatharians, which means we didn't eat or didn't have to consume things outside of ourselves. We simply did solar and lunar salutations every day, which was doing the dances and singing the sacred songs once in the morning and once in the evening to pick up the solar frequencies and the lunar frequencies. And we would energize our fields, and it would keep us going for a full 24 hours. Didn't have to eat. Our organ systems were a little different then too, because if you don't have to eat, your whole inside just starts kind of like wired differently. Because of the mutations we've suffered, we've had to go into being an eating species, which in truth is energy vampiring. We should be self-sustainable. Ideally, anything with a D12 template can simply continually sustain its hologram. Holograms are thought forms. They're not supposed to have to eat other thought forms. They should be able to just move their thought forms into whatever form they want. And that was the original intention of the human design. But we've had a long experience in our race evolution of finding out what it means to be a thought form trapped in its thought form. And that's what we're coming out of now. The technologies we're using now are slowly going to get us back, our race evolution. We are setting the seeds for a new evolution of this race back to its original divine potential that it once was expressing. Eventually, we will go back to being in the state of breatharian, where we don't have to eat anymore. We will go into a state where our bodies, if we want to have a body in a density, it does what our thought patterns want it to. It looks the way we want it to. We don't have the battle of the bulge and the battle of the sag that hits people by the time they hit their 40s. You know what I mean? In fact, most grown bodies in density 1 and density 2, when they're functioning properly, they hold an age pattern, which is a set of frequency ranges that projects out into the hologram as a body that has a certain level of molecular integrity between the ages of 16 and 33. So it's like being perpetually somewhere in that age range and not going backward or forward. So it's like, oh, what age do I want to go back to? This is eventually what we will have the opportunity to do. But right now, we have a dense matter body that has been highly abused with frequency for a very long time. It needs help and support. And you can't just abandon it and say, well, I'll drop the body and go get another one. You can do that, and you'll incarnate again. But you're leaving a part of your body in the earth when you do that, and you'll have to come back here to get it, to transmute it. If you're going to get all the way out into ascension, you will have to come back. So the idea is to transmute, to get all the portions of your consciousness that are down here, the parts that are your molecules and the D1 frequency levels, the part that's your emotional body and your elemental body, and the waters in your body, they're your consciousness. These parts of you need to come with you. These technologies are bringing you to a point where you're at least bringing into the mental body awareness what actions you can take, both inside the mind, because it's an action. Every time you think a thought and draw a picture in your mind of a symbol and put a certain color to it, you have created a thought form, and you're speaking the language of primal creation when you use light and color and form. So when we use symbols to direct energy, and then when we put it in action out here, if you want to look at it this way, the hologram that's out here is actually the past of the thought vibration we just moved out of. The past is right here. When we look out, we are looking at the past. The part of us that's looking, the stream of consciousness right now, is the present. When we close our eyes and see light, if we imagine light, we are seeing the frequencies of the dimensions above us. Like in a near-death experience, people will see the dark, they'll go through the tunnel, they're going through the 45-degree shift in angular rotation of particle spin. That is called the null zone, or one of the smaller voids that exists between every set of three-dimensional bands. There's a void between D3 and D4 that you need to shift 45 degrees in angular rotation of particle spin so it can pop up in density 2. When we use the Vesica Pisces symbol that I've been talking about, that explains it actually beautifully in a very simple symbol. The Vesica Pisces are the two circles. I don't have this one drawn yet because this information was just given. But if you imagine two circles hooked together, and the center point in one is where the other one starts. So their center points are actually touching, and they're overlapped. I wish I had a thing to draw on here. I think, let's see if this will work on here. Anybody have a marker? Because I think that would work on here. Okay. Yeah, what I need though is a marker that I can write on the Mylar with. Do you have a marker? Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you. Oh, goody. Now I can draw it right on the thing here. Okay. Now the symbol I'm talking about, I think this is the only one that has any space on it anyway to draw on. Okay. And I can't draw these perfectly without it, using a template. My hand isn't quite steady enough. But basically, what it creates is where the center points, the outer rim of one touches the center point of the other. Okay, I'll show you in a minute. It's a little hairy looking, though, the bottom one, isn't it? They're supposed to be just circles. Okay. See that little symbol there? There's not much room to write on here. That is the Vesica Pisces, except it's not a flat circle. It's supposed to be a nice-looking round circle. But the way the circles are done are the outside of one touches the center point of the other, and vice versa. So they form an interlocking electromagnetic field. And what you have is this is actually the future time zone, which is the light field, which is the Dion field. This is the past, which is, this is the electrical, which is the magnetic field. This is the Mayan field. And here in the center, see the center point? That's where you have a still point. That's the trion zone, where trions are formed. So you have the part of K, the part of Chi, the original, and the part of Cum, reality fields. our hologram, our form constant, which is the bent field of frequency that allows light to refract, consciousness to refract in certain ways, that allows for the creation of the projection of the hologram, takes place in these two spaces, at these relationships, where part of K, part of Chi, and part of Cum relate to each other in those relationships. So there's a way to use this. This is a mathematical code. It's not just an explanation of how light is born, because what this is actually, you have original source light, let's say source is an energy field. Then you have the void zone, put it together and it creates your primal light field. This is a pattern, a mathematical code that's been used ever since from the first individuation of source that forms the ecstatic level, the void in the ecstatic level, way up in the primal sound fields. This pattern manifests all the way down. So it's a core mathematical template code that can be used to embed directly into your manifestation template a thought form that you want to put there. A thought form in its wholeness if you use the right codes, because this is the carrier of a code. This is the embedding code that you can use to put information directly into your template. You can use this in a way that you can put it into all of the subharmonics of your template at the same time. And when you use it with the activation code that goes with dimension 12, you will be able to set that thought or that intention, embed it literally in all 12 strands in your template. If you're an indigo child, which most of you are, because most people that listen to me happen to be indigo children, they have 24 to 48 strands in their template, not just 12. Okay? You can put it in all 48 of them if you've got 48 of them. Now, if you want to run into your thoughts somewhere as fast as possible, the more places you can put that pattern, the faster you're going to see it until you figure out how to get your vibrational coordinates just right by feel. This is a way to get it, literally, where you will manifest it on this level. You'll manifest it on the soul level in density 2. You'll manifest it on the oversoul level in density 3 because you're manifesting it from the avatar pre-matter template level of density 4. All right, so the beginning of using the techniques, the new techniques that are going to be given, is going to be understanding how the Vesica Pisces also gives us our control code for implanting things in past, present, and future. Once we get the thing put, right, so we have a symbol that we've made that corresponds to an idea. You take the symbol, let's say it's a heart. I'm just saying that for the heck of it, right? We have a heart symbol. Let's say we have a heart and an anti-heart. Okay? You bring these two together. See how we have one? It's put in the future, right? One's put in the past, and they're being sent in from the hologram point, which is now. Then you'll use the mind to bring the two together, where this circle becomes, the two circles become one, because this one moves down in frequency, and this one moves up in frequency. Now, what this does is it takes it out, it demanifests the original pattern that is the lack of what it is you're trying to create. If you have something you want to create, that implies you don't have it yet, which means you're seeing the lower frequency pattern of it. It implies that it already exists somewhere. You take your pattern, you put both of them in, you bring it together into this center point, and that will bring your past, present, and future, because your present is here, you'll bring them all together in the center point. Now, it's a way of mathematically embedding into your template on all levels simultaneously the thoughts that you're trying to create in your hologram. It's a very powerful tool for that reason, because it also can be abused, because you don't have to use it with D12 frequency. To use it with D12 frequency, the symbol that you would use would be the D12 activation code, which is a 6-pointed Star of David with a point in the center and a circle around it. So there would be a process of visualization that you would use with this, but even easier than visualization, because that's hard for some people at first. You can draw the symbols on a piece of paper. You have chakras in the bottom of your feet. You have most that will create there's a left-right relationship that's really complicated, and it's not worth getting into. I don't think I could explain it coherently to the level that I like to when I address something. But you can pick which side you draw your original image. It doesn't have to be the hearts. This is going to be a symbol that you're going to decide to put in until you can figure out what it is. If you just want, I want my heroic self. That means everything I was ever intended to be, to create myself in my greatest wholeness, my Christos self, my Ascended Master self. I just want to be at one with my source self here while I'm in manifestation, which will be the fastest way to get all sorts of rapid but sequenced, which means they'll be smooth compared to non-sequenced DNA activations, Kundalini activations, where your particles and your antiparticles and your antiparticles all combine to progressively get your body ready to make the shift that will allow you to project out the hologram of walking through a portal into inner earth or going to visit Terra. So if you use this symbol, which is a 6-pointed star of David, notice this one again, whoops, this is like just this, one triangle, the other triangle, dot in the center, and the dots are important. If you see a dot in the center or something, that is a mathematical code. You remove it, you change what it means mathematically. That is the D12 Maharic shield symbol code. So you would put that here, and you would put it here. Okay? So you have two. You're putting it in the past, and you're putting it in the future. And then you would bring these two, you would imagine these two things in your mind if you're going to do it that way, or you would have them on the paper, and then you would have next to them the result of these two come together. One goes down, the other goes up. You don't have to draw the arrows. It knows what to do with itself. Once you load it with symbols, it will turn into this image where the dot in the center will be the transmuted code that you put in, which will raise it to its next increment and its next level. So you could just draw these two codes, this one without the words around it, and this one in it, and then this one next to it. This is the embedding code. This is how you embed things directly into your DNA template. You can use it to embed other things too, but I always suggest when you're going to use codes that have the potential to literally alter the scalar wave patterns that are in your core template, which means they can alter your body, they can alter your hologram. You put the wrong codes in, somebody gets, you could turn yourself into an ape or something. This is why these codes have been protected. And that you might see the symbols, they've been around for ages, but the explanations of what they do have been diverted this way. Oh, it's this, and this, and this, and it's sacred, but we won't tell you what you can do with it because they're very powerful. So if you're going to use this for intention and for setting like specific ideas that you'd like to manifest, do them, hold the intention of the thing you'd like to manifest. While you use this code, use the D12. This is considered the Christos code, because that holds your divine blueprint the way it's supposed to be, so you don't accidentally create a bunch of stuff that is going to work against what your soul and avatar level of consciousness had in mind when you decided to come here. All right? And it also won't create chaotic activation of frequency, bless you, in your fields. If you use the Vesica without the D12 code, you're taking the level of protection off of it, which means you can get all sorts of weird energy running through your system that your body's not ready to process. And because you're telling it to run by running that code, it won't shut off. However, if you use this symbol with it, your D12 template will not allow more frequency to enter your body than is comfortable for your body at the time. You might get little aches and pains here when you do general, like soul level motivated DNA activations, but you will not hurt yourself. You will not accidentally blow yourself up, things like that. When you start using the Vesica code, if you use it with the security symbol. The security symbol is the D12. This is the symbol that corresponds to the mathematical coding that is the 144 sub-frequency bands, the 144 fire letter codes of the D12 frequency spectrum. All right? Yes?
I've been...
We're behind each other.
I just want you to can you explain what it means to have right there? We didn't see it.
Oh, you didn't see. Okay. Let's see if I over here this time. Hello. All right. Basically what you'll do is you'll draw on a piece of paper the symbol here, the circle, and the other circle. It's important that you do the circles, you do draw them accurately, even if you have to use like one of those little circle templates or something, where the center point, and the easiest way to do it is like draw one and find its center, and then use that as where you're going to form the outside of the other one. And make sure that the inside, like the outsides, touch the insides. That's what it's about. That's what creates the mathematical interaction of frequency when you use the Vesika. So you do your 2 circles, and mine are not perfect here because I just did them freehand. Then you will put in this code here. This is the D12 frequency code that contains within it the mathematical coding for the 144 fire letter sequences that make up the D12 frequency band, which is the frequency that carries within it all of the frequencies below, the frequency of the pre-matter template. When you embed something into pre-matter, you are literally setting its intention just as you did as source, just as you did when you were a rishi consciousness in the primal light fields. You are engaging your entire higher self in the process. You are co-creating with the levels of yourself that didn't enter this level of density. So you're not working against what you're trying to do. If you're trying to do one thing on density 2, but your density 1 self doesn't know about it, and your density 1 self is running amok down here with manifestation codes, creating all sorts of stuff that's trying to mess up with the greater pattern that all of you came in to do. If you have a self on each level, you need to work with yourself in co-creation, which means you have to care what your soul level thinks. You have to care what your body level thinks and feels. Because you came in as a unified being and then got dimensionalized. And if you want to get back out, you have to reunify, which means cooperation. Okay? So when you're working with this symbol, you then put this symbol in. It's the 6-pointed Star of David, they call it, with a point in the center and a circle around it. And you can do this big. You can make it big enough where you can actually stand on it with both feet. And you can even do it where you have one under each foot, but on the same piece of paper. That piece of paper is a scalar field, and if you break it apart, that implies negative space in between, which changes the relationship. All right, so on one piece of paper below your feet, it will come through the chakras and the balls of your feet. That will be the entry point, and it goes up the energy lines that run through the legs from there, and there's a main vertical current that runs up your body. It'll go through your whole body. It'll go up into the higher chakras that are here. And you have, I haven't got into body parts in this one, but they're in the Cathar manual, and they're also in the Templar manual to show you where your chakras are. You go all the way up to chakra 14, 36 inches above the head. Then it'll come back down to where chakra 12 is, below your feet and below the point where you put the code in. And then it will continue down into Earth's core where chakra 13 is. It will make a full link of the circuits of all your creation currents. So you are using all of your currents together. You are literally creating from all of these dimensional levels. You have an embodied Kathara grid, points in the body. This is the first thing we teach in Kathara healing, is where these are and how to begin working with them. When you do this, you take this code, put that one in it here and here, and then draw the finished version of it, which is simply this, the circle with the dot, which is the 2 came together. All 3 reality spaces are now in one space, and the code has turned into a simple dot in the center. That holds your intention. You've literally put that code in every one of those Kathara centers, those inner stargates. Then there are going to be ways that we're going to amplify that even further. When we go to the beach tonight, we're going to do what's called a salutation, where once we've played with this code a little bit, you get to play with the code when you go on your dinner break. Just play with the code. And I'll show you how to play with the code. If you want, you use the breath. Use a piece of paper with the drawing on it below your feet. It's called direct induction, where you're inducing the energy pattern directly into one of the vortices in the body hologram. The vortices are connected to what are called crystal seals, seed crystal seals in the body. The seed crystal seals are connected directly to the template and to the DNA strands for each dimension. By putting it in the chakra, you're moving it into the crystal seal, which will move it into the template of the DNA and of the corresponding chakra and of the corresponding auric field level. It's if you want to program things, your chakra system is a definite tool that was given to you so you could think things through different chakras to make them manifest on different levels. This is the beginning, because this can also be used. If you notice, there are symbols here on this diagram. They're basic symbols that we've often seen many times. They are symbols that correspond to primary 5-letter sequences in each dimensional band. So everything that's made out of dimensions, you will be able to use these as directional codes if you want to put something in D4 frequency band. Now, if you embed something in your 4th DNA strand, all right, you're going to need to get to 5th dimensional consciousness before it will be in your hologram out here. All right. This is where you start to learn with the symbols, the mathematical codes drawn in light, which is future time, but inside of your head here, which is present time, and then used to run energy in the past, which is taking action to anchor it in the physical world. As you do this, you learn to literally put your manifestation where you want it. Right now, we're going for across-the-board manifestation of the heroic self, which is the future self and the past self of you that was your entire divine blueprint, where you are completely in a state of vibrational harmonization, which is a complete and utter state of love. The feeling that we call love, and all of the feelings of expansion and joy, and beyond those feelings. There's a level where joy is joy, but then there's, and even ecstasy isn't close enough. It's unity. It's a return to the oneness. These are feelings that we're going to be able to wake up in our body. We all have this part of our template. If we use these symbols, we're anchoring first the heroic self. Then as the heroic self, we can start to look at our hologram and say, is there anything here that needs healing? Don't think what I want to change. Think, what do I want to heal and integrate and raise to its highest expression? Which means you're willing to bring its negative right to you and put them together in the same space. But now you have a tool of direct manifestation where you don't have to walk the collision point. The collision point is when the negative and the positive do begin to run into each other, and you get all sorts of weird, unstable frequency as your hologram is trying to integrate. When you work with the energy directly, you integrate it before, through the D12 pattern. You harmonize it and put it back into a state of love before it gets projected into the hologram. So this is the easiest way to clear your karmic imprint, which is a bunch of twisted energy patterns that exist in the Cathara grid in your body that manifest from the Cathara grid into the DNA template, into chemical form, into your hologram. When you work with this, there's a lot you can do, and you'll get guidance from your own self. Okay, I can do that. What else can I do with it? There's lots you can do with this. This code is going to be one they're going to show us how to use tomorrow for some major planetary grid work we're being asked to assist with. This has to do with the security information that they haven't even told me what it is about yet. And we'll get into that during tomorrow's lecture. Yeah.
On Sunday, the moon is actually going into the sign of Pisces, and I wasn't sure if there was why we're doing it around those days or not on that day.
There is a reason why Saturday and Monday were chosen, but they haven't told me why yet. Yeah, I would love to explain it to you. I'd love to explain it to myself. And it's really funny because I know somewhere I know, but I also know I'm not allowed to bring that information here yet because it's a frequency, and I'm not supposed to bring that frequency in yet. And I don't know why, but I'll find out once the gate opens and I can bring it through, but we'll know by tomorrow. Yes?
I've been seeing a triangle with a dot. You know what that is?
Well, the triangle is the D1
The dot is
access code. The dot can be several different things, actually. The dot means it's loaded, first of all. That's one level of it. It means there is a program that's put in there that if you pulled that dot forward to you and opened it up, you could read it and find out. I would suggest to do that. Because the ones that hold dots in them, like the D4 one has a natural one, that's a loading code. That means there's a whole bunch of smaller symbol codes that are wrapped up tight in the center of it. And before you can tell if there's something that's working for you or against you, you're going to need to be able to feel their energy pattern. Okay, so I would say, kind of put your Maharic seal up, scan the dot in the center and say, okay, reveal what's in there, kind of thing. Okay. Whoa, you got hands all over. Okay, I'll get right to you. Yes.
Is the heroic self and crystals the same thing?
The heroic self and crystals? Christos, yes. Yes, the heroic self. Well, the heroic self is the Christos, but it's beyond the Christos as well. It's the Christos that encompasses your Christ consciousness level, your Buddhaic consciousness level, and your Nirvanic consciousness level, but then goes beyond into the Rishaic consciousness levels, and then out of the time matrix into the primal sound fields, where you have in the primal light fields the Rishi, the Rena Rishi consciousness level. Then in the first level, the primal sound fields coming out, you have the entity level, where you become an entity, which is a collective, where you know yourself as many. You know yourself as a family of consciousness scattered around space-time, and you start to get open memory and the ability to communicate and be in the heads of all of yourselves all at once. This is what it means to integrate. And then you have yourself as a Rishi on the next level, and then you have yourself as an Ekar on the final level of expansion before you go completely out of manifestation and back into source. So that's when we're doing the Christos and the heroic self. The Christos is an essential step of getting to anything higher, but it is part of the heroic self. It's the beginning part when you're down here to get up there. But it's actually incorporating the whole self to become what's called the God self. And it has to do with activating portions in the body that carry the primal sound field currents that they're called the God seed and the God spark. There's portions of the body template that hold these frequencies dormant as potential. It's the beginning process of awakening those. So that's what we're involved with when we're bringing our heroic self and manifesting, embodying our heroic future. It's bringing it into our body so it can move through our body template out into our hologram so we have a chance of walking it and experiencing the joy of it. Okay, let's get one here. You had it up first. How do you spell Vesica? V-E-S-I-C-A? Yeah. Do you know the word origins on that? Okay. I don't either. That's been called that for ages.
Part of the symbol looks like a fish. When it goes up, it's like something in the fish.
Okay.
Is that what it is? Yeah. The Christ symbol that's I mean, that's just by the back.
Okay, yeah, actually they separate it. They make the fish in here. But that's separated from the rest of its whole. I wouldn't trust that symbol at all. That's an Anunnaki symbol that's very, very popular. When they infiltrated the Christian doctrines, they used that all the time. They did the same thing with the dove. Those two symbols were actually portions of larger energy interactions that were supposed to take place that were like subliminal programming devices. Like symbols, logos they could use, the transmitted frequency, kind of like crop circles do. Crop circles that we get, they're popping up in the fields in England and several other places, they're symbol codes that are programming planetary grids. All right, images that have come up from ancient history, like the Vesica Pisces image has been there for a long time. We have the Flower of Life images, we have crosses of all sorts. These are all mathematical programs that when we perceive them here, especially when we forget, there's a hologram issue happening. We look at a symbol or we read a sentence in a book. We've just adopted and brought into ourselves a frequency pattern. All right, a scalar pattern, a mathematical command. So when we're using parts of symbols that are supposed to be whole symbols in their divine right order, we can damage ourselves without knowing. Some of the most pretty sounding words and prayers that came up from the ancient times through the doctrines actually contained commands that were meant to ensure we would be subservient to an external source and make sure we did not integrate the various levels of body. So we begin to understand symbols. We also need to understand that everything out here is a symbol. There's very little difference between the symbol we just drew here. We just made an energy form by making that line. This is an energy form, this paper or this mylar. This is a symbol. All of these things out here in our hologram are thought forms. They're not three-dimensional in their organic state. They appear three-dimensional because they have three flashline sequences of standing wave units moving through them. It gets really interesting to start decoding your hologram. Talk about decoding your dreams like we talked about earlier. and just like throw out the books and start over, you'll figure out more than what the books that are out there now can tell you. This is your waking dream. This is the waking dream, the hologram that we are in. There's no difference between the thought field that you saw in the dream state and the thought field that you are seeing here, other than the fact that the thought field in the dream state is being thought from a higher level that you're not seeing as solid yet because your consciousness isn't a full dimension above it. But here, your thought field looks like it's outside because you're perceiving one dimension above where that frequency of this pattern exists. It can be really neat when you go home and sit in your house and realize each room that you're in, each object in that room, the stuff you love, the stuff you can't stand, the stuff you didn't even realize was there, like the dust bunnies under the carpet and things like that. Every one of these things is a thought form that has a template. And the things that you feel a resonance with especially are telling you something about you. The projection of who you are doesn't stop with your body. Part of who you are is your house. Part of who you are is the community that you're in. Whether you get along with it or not doesn't matter. But you have the hologram level that goes with your Maharic shield level that encodes part of your DNA that has this is my personal space stuff that creates body separate from your body. And then part of your body is the environment immediately surrounding you. Be it your house, your room. You can look at this space. If you live under a tree, someplace in a cardboard box, this is a hologram. This is a symbol that some part of you has chosen to use for your representation of house. And if it's because you held an intention of lack, it means somewhere you have the opposite of that and you can bring them together and heal it and raise the whole thing to a higher level. It's really exciting when you start to realize you don't stop here. We have been taught for ages that we're just here. We're these little people that are just like stuck in a hologram body and we can't do much about it. And we're taught to look at everything as away from us, which means it has the power possibly to influence us and maybe we don't have the power to do anything about it. When you get to the point of fully realizing how much of the hologram is you, you start to realize that all of the hologram is you. You start to realize that all the other people in the hologram are symbol people projections. That doesn't mean they're not real and not valid. It doesn't mean you don't have to be nice to them. They're people too. It means you're symbol people. It means we're all symbols for consciousness, the one consciousness that is God. When you know yourself as God, while you're in the hologram, you're in the hologram looking at yourself and knowing that you're looking at yourself. And there's the most wonderful feeling that you get with it. A feeling that, oh my God, this is my thought form. Every person in this room represents a symbol to me that's showing me something about myself, that's holding a part of what I am and my awareness that I'm not fully conscious of in here at this time. This is what we do for each other. Right now I'm playing the symbol person role as teacher for the people who want to listen to me in that capacity. There are all sorts of symbol roles we play. And if we can start to realize that the game is supposed to be fun, it was created to be a joyful experience that had both the experience of pain and sorrow and joy and happiness, but balanced in a way that neither were too extreme, so you could have a nice experience of playing in the densities and finding out what it meant to experience yourself as an aspect of Source that chose individuation in order to look at itself more fully. This beginning of our power, using this symbol, is the beginning of returning the understanding of that power that's held in our pre-matter template. Our D12 level of self has never been out of touch with that reality. When we work with the Vesica, it will start to bring that information more fully and more clearly to us in our own time, in our own way. Your own self will regulate how fast. Oh boy, you got hands coming all over the place. Okay, I remember, you must be getting tired because you've been holding your hand up for a while. Okay.
So, what would happen if we used a person as the symbol in that symbol? First up, around the action.
It would depend on the intention you were attaching to the person. All right. If it
as a reflection that perhaps I don't like. I'm aware.
Oh, okay. For healing in that way, Yes, with a healing intention, if you put an image of a person in there, but still use the symbol. This one, make sure you use the D12 symbol with the Vestica symbol. Okay? And then you'd put it kind of the intention, like if you're going to put an image of a person or of a thing you'd like to experience or see in your hologram, you would put it in the center point of the Star of David in that second symbol here. Okay? And then you simply write it on the paper, put it below your feet, and use the breath where you inhale frequency up from Earth's core, just up to your heart chakra, and then just exhale, and it'll go from the heart chakra, it will go on its own all the way up to chakra 14. Then it'll circulate back down, and then on your next inhale, catch it here and go. And send it down. When you send that down breath, you've got D12 charge frequency coming up, circulated down through, and you're pushing it back down with the image, with the imprint of the symbol code on the paper. You can also do it with your mind, just by running it through, but if it's easier for you to just draw it on a piece of paper and do it in tangible form, do it that way. Do it the easiest way possible, because creation should be easy. It should not be hard and difficult. Okay, yes?
Is there color associated with the symbol? Should we associate color?
There will be. All right, I didn't make a distinction on it yet, because the color that pops up as the one that's right for you at the time is a communication that's taking place between you and your avatar level of self, where the color you will get as the image you want, the color you want to make those symbols, you might get them all the same color, you might get each part of them a different color. As long as you don't change the line content, other than putting in, if you're going to make any changes, it goes in the center point of the center of the Star of David one. That way it won't mess up the mathematical program. But the color that you get a feeling you want to use for that is telling you something about the frequencies that your avatar level wants you to start that transmission on. It'll start with the subharmonics. If you get blue, it'll be the D5. It's going to aim for the D5 strand first. It's going to aim for the 5th subharmonic, or the 5th subfrequency band in each of the dimensional levels of consciousness first. It was a decision made from your D12 level that was the easiest way to begin the process of plugging the manifestation in, or embedding the manifestation into the DNA template. Okay, let me see. Oh boy. I just want to say one thing. If I keep doing questions right now, we're not going to have time to get to the point where I wanted to get to. And the point I wanted to get to is where we do the tribal shield activation here before it's time to go to the beach tonight, because it's something that we should do before, and then we should do it a while before we go to do a round table. I'll explain the round tables to you on the beach, if we have time, but I do want to get to the point where we do the activation of tribal shield, which is a part of the DNA template, and I need to get you through a couple things to get you to that point. So if we can save the questions for a bit, I would really appreciate it. I'm not trying to ignore anybody, and if there's real important questions, a really good way to deal with questions, and it helps you too, is to write them down on paper. Because sometimes you will find yourself will come up with the answer tomorrow morning before you get it to me. There's something about writing something down. When you write something down or draw a symbol, you are taking information from the higher level of consciousness, running it from the future, running it through you, and anchoring it through action in the past, which means you're bringing it into your lower strand templates so it becomes real and remembered part of your hologram. What you're doing right now is remembering. This is our hologram. So I suggest writing questions down, and by the time you get to give me a copy of it, and I'll try to get back to you. I won't be able to do it till at least Tuesday when it's not so crazy, because there's a lot of people and a lot of work that has to be done, and of course the security clearance thing where I'm being given information, in blocks as we go along. But you may find your own self answers the question exactly the way you need it answered, because you just picked up the information I've been sharing with you. You might not have got it on the first round here, but you have gotten it in your field now. It's a frequency pattern. So if you really need to ask questions, write them down and see what happens. And by the end of the workshop, if you still have the same questions, then give them to me, and I'll do my best to. If I may not be able to, if everybody said there's like 70 people, or 70 people said, well, on Tuesday, can I talk to you for a few minutes? How would I divide the time on Tuesday? So it gets to the point is the more self-sufficient we can all become, the better we're able to help ourselves, and also the less burden it is on people that are trying to do other things too. Your questions aren't a burden for me. I don't want to phrase it in a way where I give you that impression. The questions are great because they represent questions that a whole bunch of people have, not just you. And they make parts of me think and say, okay, if I don't know the answer to that, let's go hunting. What is the answer to that? So I love questions. It's just I've been under so much demand lately with my time, with the work. It's been a little wacky, and I don't have time to be as personable as I would like to with people, which makes me sad, because I love people very much, and I would love for these workshops to have lots of time to go stretching on the beach and hanging out and doing fun stuff. But everybody's on a short time limit. You paid money to come here. You have jobs and things to go back to, and it's my job to give you as much as I can so you feel that you got what you came for. So I don't have a lot of time for the personal, and I apologize for that. And I will try to save question time, particularly toward the end of the workshop, because there's a lot more to learn than we just learned today. Okay? Now, we're going to move, we're going to stay on this for 1 minute. When I see over here in the corner on this, this is the list of Earth's 24 primary signet locations. The word signet is the ancient word for stargate. All right. The signets are the stargates. There's 12 stargates on this side of it, and their corresponding Templar Q sites, which are the activation sites. This is if you're going to do major round table work to activate things. You can activate things on a lot of levels, but if you want to do major activations that you link literally your energy fields to the crystal pylon temples of inner Earth, you need to do your round tables first at the Q site corresponding to the gate, and then drag the energy through to the gate. And there are energy conduits in the planetary grids that link them. We have the first stargate at the South Pole, and Cyprus Island in the Mediterranean Sea is the Q site for that, the activation site. And look at some of the places where some of these are. It's very, very interesting when we progress up the list to some of the most powerful. The most powerful one is this one and the series that run this way, 12, 9, 6, 3, and 1. These are called the Halls of Amareya, and they're a passageway that when it's open, frequency directly from the 12th stargate in this time matrix can be blown down in to clear things if a planet's in trouble or it could go in a pole shift. This can stop it from happening. We assisted them in opening the Halls of Amareya in May of this year when we went to Kauai, Hawaii. So these are the list of the places. We have South Pole, SG1, Sarasota, Florida, SG2, that's where we are. Easter Island is the corresponding Q site, the activation site. Bermuda Islands are Stargate 3. South Africa, Johannesburg, South Africa is the activation site for there. Giza, Egypt is Stargate 4. That's this one. Now see here on these Stargates, there's the names of the intergalactic systems they connect to. So these sites connect to these places. It's kind of like knowing your bus transfer system if you're going to use public transportation. These lines that run between the diagram here actually represent conduits, crystal caverns, the beginnings of which are being found. The cover on the Templar book that Leela brought to us. These caverns were found in Chihuahua, Mexico. They're connected with the Q site that goes with Gate 4. And so Gate 4 is Giza, Egypt. Central Mexico is the main Q site, and there's whole networks of these temples in these areas. These are temples, these underground crystal formations like the ones they're finding now. They're also transmitting stations that will either help us move through the star activation cycle well, or they will help in the fallen angelic capture of the halls of Amente. So over here we have Stargate 5, Peru, Machu Picchu. We're going there in December because there's work that needs to be done there. The Q site for this one, interestingly, is Rome, Italy, Vatican City. The Pope is sitting on it, and that's not an accident. Stargate 6 is in Russia in the Caucasus Mountains, and it has a corresponding link to Kauai, Hawaii. This is where we're able to work with the energies of the Halls of Amareya. There's an extra thing that links in the Stargate 6 at Kauai, Hawaii that opens the Halls of Amareya. The Q site for Gate 6 is in India, in the Thar Desert, which is up by the Pakistan border. Now, 7, Stargate 7, Peru, Lake Titicaca. That's the second place we're stopping on our trip to Peru. Paxoi, Greece, it's an island, in a Greek island, is the Q site for that. We're going there in 2002 to do work. Central China, Xi'an, Central China, is Stargate 8. Very heavily communistly dominated at this point. It's a very rigid system over there at this point. Tibet is its Q site. Interesting relationship they have there politically between Tibet and China. If we start to look at the history, or known history, of who was doing what to who, as far as what group was trying to dominate what other group, and compare that to the Stargate maps, we start to understand what's been taking place here, where certain groups of humans would be infiltrated. They would be working as really kind of like puppets of the fallen angelics, and they would be progressively sent in to take over the human 12 tribes who were the gate guardians. So there has been a progressive political dominion campaign ever since the Atlantean period, which started in 50,000 BC and came up to 9,558 BC, when they made Atlantis disappear, so we wouldn't know about the Atlantean conspiracy. So we'd be blindsided when the stellar activation cycle happened. Now, you get up here, Stargate 10, Iran. It's Q site, Iraq. Those guys love each other. This is where the real fun begins. Stargate 11, which is the gate that corresponds to Universal Stargate 11, which is the ones, the ones that the Anunnaki, Anu Elohim, the 11 fallen angelics, want to take over. That's their point, where they want to cap the time matrix, reverse it from there, and take over from there. So Gate 11 is their big quest. So the Anunnaki agendas have been running Gate 11 quests and trying to get the Merkaba spins of the planet where they would support the Gate 11 alignment in order to use Gate 11 to destroy Stargate 12 on this planet and in the Universal Templar. Now, Stargate 11 was in, both of these Stargates were Atlantean Stargates. They were in an area known as Lohas, Atlantis. Lohas was northeastern Atlantis. There was the central Atlantis was called Brua. It's called Nohasa, and southwestern Atlantis was called Brua. There were gates associated with each areas. Right now, Bermuda Islands are left. That's where Stargate 3 is. The Gruel Point, Stargate 2 in Sarasota, Florida. This was Brua, Atlantis here. And Stargate 11 is in England, the Vale of Pusey. It's around the Stonehenge, Aberbury area. It's all connected in with that. It's not in the exact same place as Stonehenge and Aberbury. It's not too far. It's interesting. We did grid work here. What was it, last month at this point? It was a month ago, right? And first we went, and there had been this crop circles that had popped up. Not right when we were there, but not too far. I don't think it was too far from the time, because they were very fresh looking. They were fresh looking. And the new one that had popped up where people were coming in and photographing because it was, a new one on the list. Right when we were coming to do the grid work, because we were doing major grid work between these two gates, because there was a certain control matrix put into our grids that was being held together through all of this. We'll talk about that tomorrow. So we have Stargate 11 in England, Vale of Pusey, and in the Irish Sea, you had the Q site. So we went to Ireland and England. And then Stargate 12 is in France, Montsegur, France. That's where the Albigensian Crusades were launched against the Cathars. Because the Cathars, it was 1244 AD, BC, AD. AD. I can't get my ACs, BCs mixed up. Okay. There are certain forces that were run through the Church of Rome, the Catholic Church, to wipe out the Cathars, the Cathari, because they knew that they had the books and the Templar, because they knew they had one of the CDD plates, and because they knew they were trying and they had the knowledge to do the Christos realignment. The people that are indigo children now were the groups that were the Cathari. They were the groups that were the Jeshua, we call them Jeshua 12, the 12th level avatar, Essenes. They were the groups that were the Atlantean Grail King lines. They were the groups that were incarnated in the Arthur period, the King Arthur period. If you have one of these, you have them all. These are the times that we came back and that we're still there in those time vectors. doing the same thing until we finish it so we can transmute to the next level up and get out of here. Kauai, Hawaii is where the activation site for Gate 12 is. And it's also the place where the halls of Amarea can be accessed, and Gate 6 opens directly into it as well. Now here we have Gate 1, parallel Earth. It also opens into Theta, Orion. Now Theta is a group of 4 stars. I think our scientists have identified as 4 stars that I think they call trapezium is actually the collective, but they call it, like when it's perceived as one, interestingly, when you look at it from, with the telescopes from here, it looks like one, but when they get closer with the Hubble and things like that, they can see that it's 4. It's interesting how distance can make things look different than they actually are. But here we have parallel Earth, Theta, Orion, inner Earth, a planet called Epsilon that's near Andromeda, so it's considered like an Andromeda access gate. Here we have Earth, Venus, and Alpha Centauri. This gets interesting. If you look up here, Gate 7, Arcturus and Omega Centauri. Now, the 2 Centauri planets are controlled by a group of Anunnaki and Draconians and what are called the Centaur races, which are fallen angelic races that are half kind of like cow-deer things and half hominid on top. They run an Antichristos agenda, and Alpha and Omega order, Melchizedek's. This is what that means. They're the ones that tell you it's the only Melchizedek order in the universe. Don't you wish? They wish they were the only ones in the universe, and they're trying like heck to make sure they are. They've been trying to exterminate High Council, which are the Elohai, and the founders ever since this silly thing began, thousands and actually millions of years ago on this planet. So we start to see where some of the names and things are. We have here the solar gate, the Sol gate, which Sol, S-O-L, is the name that was originally given to our sun. And this connects to a planet called Nibiru. Nibiru is a real interesting place. Major home, Anunnaki Central, as far as the ape hominid type Anunnaki, such as the Thoth Collective and the Isis Collective, and a lot of the interesting ancient energies that are now talking to people these days. They're from the Nibiruan matrix. The Alcyon, Stargate 5, is in Alcyon, the Pleiades. Sirius B, Stargate 6. This is where the Maharaji are from. That's the first level of pure gate access. These have been, part of these are compromised. There's been a war for these gates going on for literally billions of years, and we've been a part of it since the human creation 560 million years ago. As far as vibration goes from our point in time, it would be 560 million years ago that we were created. Our race was created as the security team.
I don't quite understand the relationship between Stargate here and the Stargate and how it relates to the planets and other bodies.
Okay. Simply, if you can recall what I had said, this template is the core template of every manifestation template. So it means any form, be it a bug, a plant, a tree's leaf. There are millions of interwoven microcosmic, building up to macrocosmic versions of this template, which is a template that shows primary energy concentration points that control how the whole rest of the template will develop. We all have a common template. That is our first entry into the time matrix template. All right. So it's showing in the cosmic matrix, which would be a huge sphere, that there are these locations. When we look up in the sky from density 1, the names of the stars here are actually where the gate point locations are. Now, the planet on a smaller level is a sphere as well. So there would be 12 points on the planet that corresponded to the planetary Cathara grid. They would be points of consolidated frequency, which these are, that allow opening and closing, that allow crossover between flashline sequences where consciousness can pass through from one set of flashline sequences, which is a timeline, to another. And a timeline is a space line, because time, which is a vibration, a repeating cycle of vibrational movement, creates space, which is the projection of the hologram, and the space between objects, a negative and positive projection. Okay, so they correspond to these, where if you went to one of these over here on the Stargate list, if you went to, let's say, Peru, Lake Titicaca, this would connect you directly to Gate 7. You could go from Titicaca directly through to Arcturus or Omega Centauri with no problem. With that, it would simply open up there. It'd be like at this angular rotation and particle spin, you are here at Lake Titicaca. Shift your angular rotation and particle spin 45 degrees. Guess where you are? You're up here. You're in the Arcturus system. Or if you shift it in the reverse, you will be in Omega Centauri. All right. So these are literally shift positions. They're the same place. This place on Earth is the same place as this, as a different particle at a different angular rotation of particle spin.
That's why they're all dual. They're all dual. One's going to the left, one would be on to the right.
These guys? They each have different spins, and our chakra systems actually spin with them. And I don't have time to do that one right now, and it's not one of the more important things to show you like which ones. I can do it real fast. These are base electrical. I don't like to leave details out. These are can you tell? These are base electrical on this side, which means they are spinning clockwise. These are electrical. These are base magnetic. These spin counterclockwise. These are base electrical. They spin clockwise. These, the halls of Amareya, can transmit both. They can transmit all of these frequencies. They were the first set of them that came down. So they can transmit both. They're electromagnetic. All right, so that explains, and they will spin both directions because of that. Okay, now there's all sorts of caverns and things. What it will look like if we get to the point where we can get our hologram under control enough to actually get ourselves to walk through gates, what it will look like is we have to go down before we can go up. We have to go down into the earth, into what are these beautiful crystalline caverns. And there are points of frequency that if you don't have certain things activated in the DNA or certain security clearance, because some of them are under security lock, that they're not going to let just anybody down there because they're trying to invade inner earth territories to get the temples. But if you worked with, you'll make connection telepathically first with someone who will help to get you there and meet you on the other side. This is what the plan is for the 3-day particle conversion period. But you would literally go through a network. You'd have to go cave walking. So like throw out the high heels, like that kind of thing, and it will probably get very hot as you go down. Even to the point where you think, humans can't go in there, but humans in Merkaba can. That's time to remember Merkaba mechanics. And through the Merkaba, when you activate your Merkaba field, you use the right sound tones, you will first of all see where the gate access point is because you'll get an image of it in your inner vision. Then you'll start to see that projected out. You'll see like a door where you know there's rock. But you're in a thought form, remember. Your hologram is not as solid as it appears to be. And if you get your frequency to the right level, it will shift the angular rotation of particle spin, where that door will become an open door, and you will be able to walk through. Where another person standing next to you that didn't do that, you would simply disappear. She walked into the wall. Honest, really, she did. What are you on? See, here's what I'm trying to explain. If somebody, this is in the Bible, they talked about that people would start disappearing as, be called up by God. Well, they were talking about the people who were able to go into Merkaba, that were able to make the shift so they didn't end up on Phantom Earth. Because the thing they were predicting in biblical revelations was what it would look like on Phantom Earth during and after the particle conversion period. It doesn't have to look that bad. That's if the fallen angelics got to wage their war here. And so far, so good. There's been enough holding them off as far as getting in their way of making things go smoothly with their negative agendas that we haven't lived the Armageddon scenario yet. But anyway.
Phantom Earth happen no matter what? Phantom Earth happen no matter what?
At this point, see that when you have thought projection, it's very interesting. When you have an event horizon or several coming up, there's always, we're in a free will system, which means there's always a chance that something can shift things. But there is a last minute period. If a thing hits critical mass, there is a point of no return, where that manifestation, no matter what you try to do to stop it, has to run its cycle. But then you can try to pick up the pieces after the fact. And that's what's being done with that matrix. It's already hit a critical mass density where it can't be stopped on that particular version of Earth. Now, it's been altered, where it's not been, the holy, horrible war that they predicted, in the Bible, and they're iffy of certain of the things. We'll talk about things like wormwood tomorrow and what all that stuff in Revelations meant, because it has directly to do with some things that are happening. And we can influence the severity of what will happen in that matrix. But we can't prevent a bunch of it, because some of the things have built a critical mass. That thought pattern is pregnant, and it hit that point where it's going to deliver that baby no matter who tries to stop it. Thought forms work like that. We'll talk more about that tomorrow too, as far as the interesting way. Where do they come from? Okay, we move into a frequency pattern, and we actually run into a frequency pattern that is an old thought form. It creates a reaction in us. We imbue more of it in there. It comes into us and gets projected out as our consciousness moves up above it. There's a process that involves the DNA that I'll get into tomorrow more, because it's not, for what we're talking about right now, it's not that important. But there's some real interesting things that we're going to learn to do as far as thought and as far as learning how to influence things on a big way. What we do can help change what the severity of the phantom Earth probability are going to look like, and it can help to make sure that our probability, our time factor, makes it into merger with the bridge zone in a peaceful way that doesn't create pole shift. So the things we're learning about how to just master ourselves will also help us to master how we can assist this planet in getting its own heroic future embodied into its body. And if the planet's on its heroic future, we will be too. So it's kind of, we'll help each other. All right, let's see. I think I'm done there. I talked about them already. I don't even know how to put that on, because I already explained what they were. Yeah, I'll go past that. How are we doing on time?
It's for us.
Okay.
That's the NDC next.
Okay, let me see this. I wasn't going to show that for that part. I was going to do part of tomorrow's. Yeah, I don't even need to. I explained Q sites. I don't have to do that. That's what that was for. Okay. I'll do that a little bit. Yeah. I think I'm going to put this first. Okay. All right, here we go.
Sean, before you take the other one down, there's a symbol for number 11 on the advisory grid.
Okay, which one was on that?
Is that the balance star?
Which one?
What you just had up
This one?
there. Number 11.
This symbol?
I can't, no, on the, there. Able to fail, to the left of the number 11 there.
Oh, here. Actually, that was to mark where, this is where our Merkaba reversal on the planetary level is being held in reverse by a crystal implanted network that's held at Stonehenge. And it runs through into control the gate here, because it's positioned on a line that runs between the Q site 11, which is in Ireland. There's a ley line system that runs down to gate 11, and that's the activation current. So this Stonehenge is right on the line between it, so it reverses the fire letters of the planetary grid programming, and it runs through here. So that's why that little star was there. She asked about that star. Yes, it was. That was the first part of the healing of this planet that we accomplished where we went to England and Ireland. We ran the Maharata codes, the D12 codes, to reset the natural Christos template. And what that did was amazing. I'll show you in a minute really quick. What we released, the beginning of what we released, it's called the Big Black Spider, or the Nibiruan 8-pointed star. We just turned it into a white star that's going to have 12 points, and the Big Black Spider has been turned into a white spider that's going to grow some additional legs. Okay? Yeah. All right, now this I just want to show you real quick to show you when we have stellar activation cycles. This is basically what happens. This is harmonic universe 1, right? Dimension 1, 2, 3. Harmonic universe 2, harmonic universe 3, 4, and 5. This is just to show the difference in Merkabas, okay? Now, Merkabas are the sets of counter-rotating, spiraling counter-rotating electromagnetic fields. There are dimensional Merkabas, a set of them for each dimension, but there are also bigger ones that are called harmonic Merkabas, that are three-dimensional Merkaba fields that control the smaller dimensional ones and all the smaller things that the dimensional ones control. This is showing you the harmonic Merkaba fields, and these are the ones we work with activating, by the way. We don't bother with just the little dimensional ones. We're working with the whole set of frequencies. But on the planetary level, a stellar activation cycle does not occur during the periods of time when the angular rotation of particle spin between the Merkabas of the planet, between Earth, Terra, Gaia, and Aramatena, are not lining up on a vertical axis. They're at different rates, because these all spin. These are like little wheels that are fixed here in the middle point, and they spin at different rates to each other. So at some times, these side points will cross over. At some points, the main center point will come into alignment with the center point and the one below, and other times they won't. These are when time cycles blend, which is what a stellar activation cycle is, and that's what makes stargates open. If you look at Merkaba fields, it's actually spiraling flash line sequences, because that's precisely what they are. You have flash line sequences from density 1 going at a certain rate, and flash line sequences from density 2 going at a certain rate. And in stellar activation cycles, they come into merger with each other, where they hit a zone in here, and they form a form constant, which is that space of holographic projection in the center. That's the space that will open up a piece of land that you didn't know was there before a stellar activation happened. It creates an opening to the crystal caverns that lead between our planet and its density 2 counterpart Terra. So this is just to show you the vertical alignment of the planetary Merkaba fields that occurs during stellar activation, as opposed to the times when stellar activation is not present, when that vertical axis is off at different angles of spin. This is what we're moving toward. These are levels of activation that we were supposed to go through. We'll talk more about these tomorrow, and the fact that all of that has been expedited from the dates that were originally given. Okay. Yeah, that's what I said. Help. Yeah. Of energy, the ones coming down on the particle side are electrical, and they have one pointing up, drawing energy up this way from that's the magnetic spiral. So any body actually has a set of these Merkabas on the outside, around the body, as well as on the inside within the body. They create, when they spin, they create spheres of energy, actually vesica Pisces, within them. That's where we get our form constant, that our holographic projection can take place within. When we speed up Merkaba fields to where there's a particular ratio that's matched between those two, the top and the bottom spiral, and we get it going on the proper ratio, which is the natural particum phasing ratio, then we have the ability to change and to begin to interact with the angular rotation of particle spin. Now, on a planetary level, Merkabas serve a very important purpose. They hold the galactic orbital patterns in motion through sets of black and white holes that are at the center of the sun, around which the planets are rotating. Science here does not understand gravitational pull yet fully. They do not realize there's another force on the other side that's helping to fully generate that, and that there's an intimate connection between those forces. So Merkabas, if you have the solar Merkaba, which is this one up here, this would represent the solar Merkaba, the antiparticle spiral coming down. That's what we're going to use when we do the beach thing on Monday. We're going to be using that to energize ours, to draw in extra frequency that we can work with, but we're going to do it on the right spin ratio. Okay, this is the right spin ratio, 33 1/3. That goes right back to when the particum breaks into the partic A and the partic I. The electrical antiparticle, which is the partic A, should have 33 1/3 of the units of thrust compared to the 11 2/3 magnetic. And you put them back together and you have 45 units of thrust, which means there are a bunch of others. You have 45 and you put it with the antiparticle, you have 90. That means that's 90, a 90-degree rotation. That implies to make 360 rotation, which is really Source's experience of itself in manifestation, that there are several of these time matrices. But it all comes down to Merkaba. The planets and the galaxies are held together by the forces generated through the Merkabas that exchange energy and information from not only going sideways from Earth to inner Earth to parallel, but also going vertically. So Merkaba fields draw energy. It's a very complex system of energy bypass, where it goes from one on this side to another on this side, and over to here, and back and forth, and it crosses through that third inner Earth cycle all the way through. That's one of the diagrams. It's probably going to take me about a week just to do that one, because we're real complicated. But this is enough to show you. We start to see, wow, this does affect the planet, doesn't it? These are like important. I remember in one of the workshops, there was a really sweet person. She said, "Can you explain to me this something? What's Merkaba? What's so important about Merkaba?" And it was the most wonderful question, because I kind of went, we're almost at lunch break, so I'll get back to you on that. And I remember spending all my lunch going, how do I answer that question? It's like, it holds the whole universe together, And it was really interesting. It brought it home to me. Her question was wonderful. It brought it home to me. What is so big about Merkaba? Well, it's the primal force that holds all the things together, the glue that holds the hologram together and holds you into the hologram. And it's also what can get you to have the ability to move in and out eventually of your hologram the way you would like to. Merkaba is the movement of God's consciousness when it chooses action. It is the part of God that expresses as action, where the other expresses as what is called the still point, or non-action. So anyway, this is how Merkaba, this is ours, and this would be our solar Merkaba, is electrical. That means our planetary Merkabas, the ones that surround the planet, these are only the harmonic ones. They're three-dimensional, so there's one half of it here and the other half of it in the next density up, right? So this one actually brings through fourth dimensional frequency from density 2, antiparticle, and it brings in frequency from the parallel Earth scale. To plug in, for our Merkabas to plug in properly, for these Merkabas to circulate energy in the right way, that will make Partakai phase the right way, that will make our angles of rotational particle spin between each level of our body do the right thing, means that the magnetic Merkaba down here has to go at 11 2/3 counterclockwise spin, while the top goes at 33 1/3. It's electrical clockwise spin. That's the natural ratio for this side. If we were over in the antiparticle system, it actually reverses. Where to keep this balance over here, they have the reverse balance there. So their planetary Merkaba would be electrical, and their solar Merkaba would be magnetic. And this is all about, remember the Stargate ones? I showed you how Stargates are like these little clusters of black and white whole vortices at the centers of planetary bodies and suns. This is all an interaction that's taking place between those whole sets. Those whole sets are the core of where the Stargates anchor and then come out into points on the planetary bodies. So it's a very intense system. And this is very ancient sacred knowledge that just put the pieces together and showed people that, look, this is the manifestation template. This used to be our knowledge, our sacred knowledge, when we were operating consciously as the protectors or the assisting protectors of this time matrix and the Stargates. This is something we'll talk about briefly tomorrow. That's called the mess. The big black spider is the result of this mess. This is something that was done to the planetary Merkaba. This is something that was done to the part of the solar Merkaba. It was done by a group of Anunnaki races called the Nibiruans. It has to do with their planet called Nibiru that runs on a very strange orbit. If you look at this diagram and don't look at this picture, this part of it here, this thing with the arrows, and just try to see where here is the Merkaba that holds the galactic planes together, okay? You have this Merkaba, which is the transmitting one, and this one the receiving one. Actually, how these systems are positioned within these fields is we have the plane that the particle universe rotates on here. That's like when they take those pictures with the Hubble spacecraft and you see our little galaxy hanging out there in space like a little plane with its little planets lined up. That takes place in there. And then the antiparticle one takes place this way. It's actually running on the bottom, underneath it, as if it was a top, and you could look at the top, and the spinning top, that you could look at the top and look at the bottom. They're actually the same space. Just the polarity of the particles are reversed. The inner Earth systems would interface with this at a different angle. But the interesting thing about this, as we'll talk about tomorrow, this has to do with Nibiru, and it has to do with a prophecy in Revelation that people have been trying to figure out for years and haven't got very far. The prophecies that were in Revelations about something called wormwood. Wormwood, there was a phrase in there about, and wormwood fell from the skies and contaminated half of the earth, and dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. So people were thinking it was a comet, an asteroid, something comes big and falls and makes a mess. And it was supposed to be part of the Armageddon scenario where, fire, brimstone, and, hailstorms and firestorms and all sorts of crazy stuff. Well, it was a prophecy. It wasn't put there by guardian races. It was put there by a group called the Jehovian Anunnaki, who did not like the other Anunnaki that were the hominid ape Thoth, Nibiruan, Palladian Anunnaki. They knew the Palladian Anunnaki were going to come in, and the Nibiruan Anunnaki were going to come in and try to take the stargates. So they were planning to do holy war with them in the skies. The Nibiruans have their planet, which goes on a very long orbit. It used to be one in our system. It used to be on this orbital plane with the rest of ours. But they did something to its Merkaba and linked it into a density 2 planet that's running in reverse. Nibiru now runs on this axis compared to what it's supposed to be running as part of our solar system. It was once one of our planets in our solar system. Now what this does, the only way they were able to do this, it was through the solar gate, through really hijacking portions of it that they had once been entrusted as part of the security team for. They created a body by taking part of a planet that had been destroyed. And they took that body and they forced it into a direct electromagnetic alignment with their planet Nibiru, and they linked it through this gate, and then they created a force above this to a planet that's called Tiamat in density 2. This has created an orbit that's very different than the natural orbit here, and what it does is makes Nibiru comes in and orbits comes up through the asteroid belt at this angle. Once every, the precise things are here, I can't read it from here, but we got precise, it was an estimate before, but now it was precise. Yeah, once it's, is this the new one? This isn't the new one, is it? No, shoot, it isn't. Yeah, do we have any of these? Because the precise dates are on it. Okay, on these things, they're the ones that are in the Templar books, right? Okay, so it's in the Templar book. Okay. Anyway, in the Templar books, for the one who have that, this is on page 169A, and it's the updated version where all these are set in typeset now. There's a bunch more information that's been put in down here. It gives a precise explanation of Nibiru's cycle and the fact that it was last visible in our system, in our star system, between 48 BC and 18 BC. And when Nibiru goes out, it goes out for a very long time. It's like 3,657.8 years, I believe, is the number. All right, very long. Goes out because it orbits up and disappears out of here, orbits up into density 2, out into the Sirius star system, because it's linked with Tiamat in density 5 and Sirius A in density 6, because they're trying to hijack the natural Sirius B stargate, trying to create an artificial link to Sirius A and create their own time matrix alignment to take over the stargates. Wormwood is a name given to the piece of rock that once was a part of a planet called Maldak that became Doom World after wars with the Draconian races were fought there. Wormwood is the thing that's holding the thing in orbit, and all of this anchors, the gravitational force that anchors all this into Earth's grids, it was at Stonehenge. That is what we released, because if it wasn't released, we would have gone into pole shift between now and 2008. That's what happened in parallel Earth, was they didn't get it released in time. And the Nibiruans, the Thoth groups and all that, they've been very lively. They've been planning to take over this place since Atlantis. And they planned to make contact with their own when the time came to get them. Oh, you're our buddies. We'll teach you all these wonderful things. We're Melchizedeks, and we'll teach you these great things. And they were teaching people how to do planetary grid work on a reverse matrix so they could finalize what would open the portals to inner Earth on a reverse matrix so they could get in and conquer the halls of Amente and then get rid of us, because they don't want humans here, and they don't particularly want their own here either. They want to have their new races come in, not the people that are here. Yes? I don't like to name names, but if you look at the rotational spins, that will tell that. It will also tell, I already named it, and at this point, I don't go after individuals, I don't go after anybody. I simply call the information like I know it, but people that are working with the Alpha Omega order are working with the Anunnaki who pulled out of the Emerald Covenant on September 12th of 2000 and have taken a stance with the Draconian and the Anunnaki races in something called the United Resistance, where they are trying to mobilize forces to stand against the Guardian groups to make sure they can take over before these gates open and we get the Christos template done. So I don't think the people associated with it know that the people they trust, anybody dealing with Thoth, Well, you were dealing with somebody who had made some promises for his own interest before to enter the Emerald Covenant, supported them for a while, and then broke them. So now the Thoth matrix is now misleading its groups and sending frequencies in now that their fields are open because they taught them how to do it, to get their codes and their DNA running in reverse. Their Merkaba is running in reverse because humans have the access codes to the planetary grids and Anunnaki don't. They can't reprogram our grids fully. They need the DNA template that comes with the human imprint to be able to release the security codes. And they need the indigo children because they have the high-level security codes that go with the higher primal light and sound fields. So there's a big unseen war that's taking place right now. Now, we'll get into this more tomorrow, but I just want to explain a little bit about the wormwood thing, because there is a chance that we're going to be dealing with some of the fallout of what it means to break that magnetic link. So wormwood doesn't call pole shift. What might it do if we break the link to Earth? Well, it's going to send a whole bunch of them back into their original orbital patterns. What that's going to look like in our hologram, there are several options. They're not bad options. It's not something to be scared of, but it does place an understanding of where the prophecies of doom and gloom were coming from, because if intervention wasn't given, wormwood itself, because of its misalignment of Earth's stargates with the organic universal stargates, would have created mandatory pole shift here. Once it started, you wouldn't have been able to stop it. So the intervention has prevented that, but it may create some asteroid showers at some point between 2003 and 2008. Now, I wonder if your ears get as tired of listening as my mouth gets as tired as talking. I hope not. Yeah. Okay. Now, we're going to just look at this for a minute, and then we're going to go into, Michael is going to help us out here by doing a technique which is called the tribal shield activation. The tribal shield activation is using sound tones. Remember how we spontaneously decided to do some of the sound tones before? And the people who've probably never heard us before, they're just new to this, thinking, well, what is that? These are ancient sound tones. The sacred songs, PSONNS, are very specific sound tones that carry the mathematical and geometrical programmings of scalar waves in them. When you sing them in the body, they trigger activation of not only portions of the entire 12-strand DNA template, they trigger activation of the species DNA template, which is called your tribal shield. Your tribal shield is a part of you, your template, that connects you to your species and to your species divine blueprint. So it gives a whole big kick of energy compared to a smaller kick that your own Maharic shield would bring. Activating the tribal shield gives you enough frequency where you can run frequency into the planetary shields, and the grids will open for you if you use the right tonal commands. So activating the tribal shield is the first stage in doing numerous things of accelerating your own growth. But if you want to do any planetary Templar work that is really going to be effective, this is the way you get enough frequency of the higher light and sound fields into your body through the Christos template in order to be able to actually make some effect and have enough critical mass frequency in to make it worth your while if you're trying to do something with roundtables. Now, it brings me back to this picture. This diagram is interesting. It is the diagram of the relationships of energy in the divine blueprint, the planetary divine blueprint. If there were points of frequency, there's a specific angular relationship between them all. There are 13 points, the 12 points that actually correspond to the Cathara grid, and they hold that formation of the 12 points within them. But they have an energy distribution relationship that works like that. So you can look at the 12 points on the Cathara grid as their base core template. They first come into manifestation with those angles of relationship, but then they start energy interactions between each other. And this diagram shows you, and this is why it was always the Templar cross. It was associated with the Knights Templar, who were guys who were trying to hijack. They were Thoth Illuminati people, taught by Thoth the Anunnaki. They were trying to take over the planetary Templar, and they hijacked the natural symbol that our guys always used for the Templar, which was the diagram of the relationship of time cycles, of flashline sequences through expanses of time in a density level. That's what this is. It's the planetary divine blueprint. You have a smaller version of this precise pattern within your tribal shield template. When we do the tribal shield activation, it will begin to activate the frequencies that correspond to each one of these places. Now, each one of these places has the name on it. This would correspond to Stargate 1, so to be D1 frequencies. There's positionings of the frequencies, if you'll notice. You have D1, and D2 is over there, D3 is here, D4, D5 is over here, D6 is there, D7, D8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There's a movement of energy or an interaction of flashline sequences here that holds the key to many, many things. It holds the key to activating and running the stargates properly. It holds the key to getting the tribal shield, the point in your own manifestation template that you connect to the species so you can bring more frequency in to the body in a natural, ordered way, more consciousness in. This is also... And this is, what Michael has done with this is just ingenious. There's also what in the ancient of days you would have sometimes thousands of people standing in this configuration doing Merkaba, singing the tones, building from slower spins to lower tones, building the tones and the spin and the breath and the movement, spin and breath and movement, building frequency. They would turn themselves into major standing scalar waves in their fields, and they would create the right interrelationships between energy by the way they stood and where they did their spins. And they would create places to walk through to get to other places. They would also balance the planetary grids that way. They would also clear ley lines and clear stargates that way if they were beginning to run in reverse. These are the patterns of energy interrelationship we need to use when we work with clearing stargates. So like the Merkaba spins on stargates, because the planetary Merkabas are messed up, the stargates are partially messed up here. As we run these patterns, we are anchoring D13 frequency. First we run all of these, and it gets focused then into the center point, which allows enough frequency to build. And boy, these get powerful. When you get a whole group, I think there's like 52 people are in the average one, and then you can run like this one and then another one next to it. You can put millions of people in them if you wanted to. Talk about generating sound waves. We're generating major standing columnar sound waves that are light waves elsewhere, that are scalar waves, that have huge amounts of power and control when they're done the right way, in alignment with the Christos template. You actually cannot run one of these effectively without the minimum of D12 frequency. So it has a built-in protection. This part we can let loose, where they can, the people who might want to try to misuse it will not be able to generate enough current in their body without D12 to override what we're doing as indigos, because indigos are being activated as the planetary Templar security team. They're the ones that will learn how, or remember, how to do these first. This is the diagram of a round table. This is the diagram of how people stand and where they spin. And at first, the way we do them now, Michael did something ingenious. Because remember, it took us like half an hour in Hawaii, this whole group of people. Okay, you stand where? No, you stand there. What's that angle? It's very hard to see this when you're in the middle of a group of people. You need to be like in an airplane over now. You over there, right? Well, it's easy to draw the diagram here, but when you get bodies standing there, trying to see the right angles is challenging. Michael devised a great way to handle this. He got a bunch of plastic hoops that look like hula hoops, and he tied some of them together where it creates which creates this rectangle, right? Creates this, so then you just set in the other hoops, so you can very easily create that pattern, lay it out on the ground, and spin around the hoops, right? Which has saved tremendous amounts of time as far as getting a round table going. The round tables are fun, first of all. Every group we've done them with has had a good time. There's a sense of well-being that comes in, and a sense of excitement that begins to build, because you're bringing in frequency. You're helping the planet, but boy, you're bringing in your own higher self frequency too. So before we go, because we're going to be doing this and something called a salutation this evening, we're going to activate certain tone frequencies. So how far are we going to go in this one? Because there's one part we don't need to do the cues on. Yeah. Yeah, I just want to get the frequencies.
We won't do the spin.
Yeah, okay. I want to describe what a back song is.
Right.
Okay.
We're going to use, I'm getting 12, 2, and 3 are the sequences we're going to use today.
Okay. All right, I better explain the master song. Okay, we're going to be using...
We're going to do the quick seal before we begin actually.
They're already activated.
I know that, but it's just the feeling that you have when you move from doing it into the space.
All right, if you want to. Yeah, okay.
Just to get the feeling and the consciousness. Right?
Okay. In this technique, it's a field guide that comes with the Templar manuals. It's field technique number 2B. It's called Tribal Shield Q Zone Activation, creating a Q Zone. First, I'll explain a Q Zone. Okay, it's on page 9 in the other book. This is they got these with theirs, didn't they?
Everyone has bought the manual.
Yeah, it's the field guide, the smaller book.
Goes with the big manual.
Okay, the field guide.
This is the second element.
Yeah, we're going to do the first part of that. I just wanted to explain for people who might not know what certain words are. There's 3 master sans suffixes. Michael will tell you what they are. That gets into when I talk about the races and the race names and the sans a little bit more, which I'll probably do tomorrow. They're like 3 ending sound tones that will be used as the activation tones in Tribal Shield activation. So he will let you know. Just like say this. At this one point that says doing the back song. Now, a back song is hearing there's a sound. When you throw a sound or give a sound into the earth grids, you're throwing a frequency and a vibration and an oscillation. The earth will give one back. It may take you a while to be able to hear it, but eventually you'll be able to hear tones that are sent back to you in response to the energy that you project into the earth. There's also another part in this where it says, allow the Christos soul song to emerge from you freestyle and send the tones into the earth grids. What that means is allow your Christos level to run tones, the soul song. And I've seen a couple groups that were utterly amazing. People have never heard of doing this on a conscious level before. It was like a choir of Elohim coming down and singing. I mean, they just started with tones, everybody doing different tones. After we activated the tribal shield, then it went into the personal shield, where the personal tones started coming, and it hit such a beautiful harmonic vibration with overtones, bass tones, and stuff. A couple of times I've been amazed, made my hair stand on end. It felt so good, So when we get to those points in this exercise, it's a point where you realize you're in a safe environment here. People here, you don't have to worry about being embarrassed. If you have sound tones that want to come out, let them. You help heal yourself that way. And every time you let that happen, you're bringing information down to yourself from your higher level of self. Most of the information that your avatar will communicate to you will either be in direct cognition silence, where you don't hear anything, you just get the feeling from that level of yourself. Or if you let it out, it will sing it to you, which gives you the direct cognition. It gives your body the direct cognition too. So there are the 2 parts of this exercise I wanted to explain for anybody that hasn't heard it. We will do a salutation and a first round table on the beach tonight at 9:30. And I will turn this over to you for now. And I'm going to go get a drink before I lose my voice. There we go. I have one here.
Yeah. There you go. Sorry. That's the one. We're going to begin with the Maharic quick seal technique. Technically it isn't necessary, but we understand that at this stage of working with these techniques, one of the key things which helps us to perform the task of participating in the technique is to bring the feeling of the Christos identity into your present reality. And quite apart from the other reasonably well-known attributes of the Maharic seal, bringing this Christos consciousness into the present moment before you move into setting the Q zones is a particularly useful frame of mind to put yourself in. So we're going to do that first. It's probably worthwhile to add that at some stage recently, the GA pointed out to us both one night when we were talking, that in some place we call future relative to where we all are today, there really is a Christos of each and every one of us who are participating in this work. And it's an interesting thought to bear in mind and consider at some other time when you go home. That in terms of the Christos in this thing called future, the people who are here today exist and are written literally, as heroes of this time. You are all heroes, and you're already written in what we call history, but in another space and time. Just bear that in mind, because you truly are. So we begin. We were 24-pointed Hierophant, or what appears to be a 24-pointed three-dimensional star. And as we go into the Maharic Quick Seal, it's proper to remind you that you'll be working with the beings that we refer to as the Brahma Rishi, or the Christos level. So you begin by slowing your breathing as you bring into your imagination or intention a 24-pointed three-dimensional star at the center of your brain. As you bring this image to mind, visualize this 24-pointed star surrounded by pale blue sphere of light. This pale blue sphere serves as a buffer for any one of us who are not quite ready to accept fully the frequencies associated with working with a 24-pointed star, so it protects you. The blue sphere holds the energy for you until your body can handle all of it. Now in a moment, I'm going to ask you to inhale as if you're going to literally grab the blue sphere containing the 24-pointed star located at the center of your brain. And then on the exhale, I will tell you to move this star all the way down to the Earth's core. And as you do this, listen with the inner ear to the sound tones as the star hits the planetary shield. So on the inhale, grab at the blue sphere. So draw a deep breath. Grab the blue sphere containing the 24-pointed star. And on the out breath, move it down all the way to the Earth's core and listen for the sound tones with the inner hearing. Now inhale immediately, deeply, and draw the sphere and the Hierophant up to the shield 12 inches below your feet. And on the exhale, watch while the pale silver blue sphere expands out to a larger sphere. Your Maharic shield pops out as a disc, about 4 foot in diameter, pale silver with a light coating of blue. Now bring your attention to the center of your Maharic shield, 12 inches below your feet, and inhale the 24-pointed star up to the heart center. And as you exhale, expand the frequencies of the 24-pointed star into the heart chakra. Now on the next inhale, when I tell you, I want you to grab the 24-pointed star, and then when I tell you to exhale, push the star up to the 14th chakra, 36 inches above your head. Inhale, grab the 24-pointed star, and on the exhale, push it up to the 14th chakra. Imagine the 24-point star is spinning in a clockwise direction in the 14th chakra. And as you work with this for a moment, particularly try to feel or sense the energy around you, just a few inches out from the surface of your skin. Now gently bring your attention to your Maharic shield 12 inches below your feet. And whilst you do that, take a couple of relaxing breaths. Continue to breathe easy, and when I tell you to inhale, I shall ask you to pull the pale silver and blue energy all the way up to attach it, as it were, onto your 14th chakra. Try and remain aware of the sensations just a few inches out from your body. Okay, inhale deeply and pull the pale silver and blue energy all the way up to your 14th chakra. Now envision the cord of pale silver Maharic light that would normally come up with your shield and focus on the Earth's core. begin drawing energy all the way up the 4-inch diameter cord and into the body. Draw this energy on up into the heart center and expand it there. Take a few breaths while you focus on doing this. And with each breath, imagine that you're forming a pale silver ball of Maharic frequency. On each out-breath, send your energy down to the earth's core. And as you leave it there, bring up another load of Maharic frequency, up from the planetary shields, up into your heart center, and expand it there. Continue for several more breaths yet. And as you do it, notice that the cord will expand as you do it, initially from 4 inches or so, out to 6 inches, out to 8 inches, sometimes a little more. With further breaths, eventually you'll expand this feeling out until it feels like a skin all around your physical body. Continue to breathe this way as you load your astral field with Maharic frequency. Continue to build a ball of pale silver energy in your heart center. Now we'll go for a final inhale. Draw Maharic frequency up to your heart center. Expand the sphere for the final time. And as you're doing that, move it on up to the 14th chakra, 36 inches above your head. And in this expansion, feel for the sheath of Maharic frequency encasing your etheric body close to your skin. And we'll take a few seconds now just for you to reflect on the feeling as you connect fully with your Christos identity. Stay with the feeling as I begin to introduce the technique for creating a Q zone. Keep your focus on the feeling you have. Now shortly we're going to work with the Tribe 12 and Tribe 1 names, which is known as the 13th tribe. As you do this, I want you to be aware that you'll be directing pale silver and pale color rainbow ray spectrum down through your body and out the soles of your feet into Earth's planetary shields whilst we're toning. Now at first it probably feels a little difficult to do that, but that is the purpose of the technique, is to combine the awareness of moving energy into the Earth's planetary shields while toning. So we'll begin by toning the Tribe 12, Araya Zutara, followed by Tribe 1, Isutu Ishua. Okay, now I'll help you to pick up the speed and the volume, because that is how we will build the standing wave, okay? So on my lead, and I'll give it back to you rather than use the microphone once you get rolling. So if you begin, remember to transmit the energy down to the planetary shields as we do this. Araya Zutara, Isutu Ishua, 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 Araya Zutara, Isutu Ishua. Go on. Start to build the volume and the speed. Araya Zutara, Isutu Ishua, Araya Zutara, Isutu Ishua, Araya Zutara, Aisutu Ishua, Araya Zutara, Aisutu Ishua. Quicken it and build the volume some more. Be aware of transmitting the frequencies into the planetary shields while you do this. To Ishua, Araya Zutara, Aisutu 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 Ishua. Very gently, slow it. Don't go too quickly, don't go too quickly. Just gently bring it down. Just gently caress at the tones. Just bring them down gently. That's right. Lovely, lovely. Now extend the tone as you finish now. Lovely. Now we will tone the three master sound suffixes, which for the purposes of our work this weekend will be the suffix for tribe 12, tribe 2 and tribe 1, which go Ra, El, So after me. Ra, El, Ra, El, Ra, El, Ra, El, build the speed and the volume. Just gently build the speed and the volume. Ra, El, and be aware that you're running the sound through your body and out the feet into the earth's grids now. That's it. Ra, El, Ra, El, quicken it now. Ra, El, Ra. Quicker now. Ra, El, Ra, El, Ra, El, quicker. Ra, El, Ra, El, Ra, El, Ra, El, Ra, El, Ra, El, Ra, El. Continue building it. That's good. Go on. Ra, El, 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 Ra, El. Couple more minutes. Just quicken it and increase the volume if you can. Good. Go on. Go on, push it up. Push it up. Push it up. Go on. Go on. Yes. Yes. Gently caress those tones, bring them gently down, don't leave them alone too quickly. Just stroke them down, just stroke them down. That's it, that's it, that's it. And allow this gentleness to move into your own expression of your Christos soul song. Allow this without pause to move straight into the way you feel right now and tone your own tone. Just let it happen. few moments now, just sit quietly. Maintain your connection in the way you have it, and listen for Earth's telepathic transmission of its own backsong, acknowledging you and sharing with you in the work you just performed. Draw the gentle frequencies from the earth into your body for guidance or healing as feels appropriate. To foreshorten the connection that you have right now. But we will close this Q-zone technique by working for several rounds, and I'll tell you when to stop with the 3 suffixes that we used a few minutes ago. So after me. Ra, El, Ra, El, Ra, quicken it and build a volume. Quicken it and build a volume. Ra, El, 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 Go on, take it away, build it up, go on, do it again. Go on, good, go on, good, go on, push it a little more, build the volume now, keep building the volume. Now begin to bring it down gently, 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 gently. The tones are like a baby. Gently, gently. Just hold the air now, just hold the air on the last round. That was wonderful. Thank you.
For me, the most joyful experience of all of the material is being able to put it into action. We're anchoring it in our past by doing it here with our physical action. It's kind of funny when you think about when you do something right here, right now, with your body out here, you're doing mental action in the past. It just appears as if it's a three-dimensional experience. We're setting sound tones in our past and our future through our present when we do this. When we get to a certain level, particularly with groups that continue to practice together, there are huge, massive, standing scalar waves of sound that are created, that you can literally feel the resonance of them. And what's interesting, when we do them in the round table configuration, all the sound amplifies. We use the names of the 12 tribes, not just the first one and the third one, not just the suffixes, but we use all tones of 12 tribe names. So there will be a group singing each set of tones, and they all blend into a multifaceted, interdimensional set of tones. Then we combined it with Merkaba spin, using the right ratios of spin, and we get our outer Merkaba field spinning. We activate the inner Merkabas with the tones that allow us to get the outer Merkabas spinning, that allow us to set all of the little mini Merkabas inside of our bodies into the right rotation of spin, which allows us to bring in frequency. Anchor frequency is what it's about, because frequency is consciousness. Where's the rest of you? It's in the form of frequency, just waiting to come in and say hello. When we get to the point of 3-day particle conversion periods and inner earths and portals and stargates, and knowing that there's going to be a time vector where huge amounts of people don't get to see any of that. They're the ones that look at people like us and say, bunch of weirdos, right? Look at them, they're nuts. They're spinning around and stuff. They believe in Stargate, they believe in ETs, Yeah, and we believe in God too. You got a problem with that, It's the people that have such a mental body block because of the belief programming that they've accepted and they continue to reinforce. They're the people that are not likely on their own to be able to see the realities of walking through stargates or walking through a portal. Because part of that process is activating the sound tones in the Merkaba. When groups do this and we set Q zones, which are zones in the planetary grids by a group of people serving as living conduits of energy, bringing that energy into that location in the grids, you literally set a field of 12-dimensional frequency, a waveform, a standing wave. When it comes time, and if it comes time where temporary evacuations are needed, if things are going to get rough here, and even during 3-day particle conversion, unless we really rapidly learn how to breathe helium and hydrogen, we're going to have a little problem tolerating the atmosphere because there's molecular transitions that happen. There's something called hydrogen burning that takes place in the atmosphere, in the outer layers of the atmosphere, and works itself in, including the ozone layer. It transmutes and raises to another octave and then comes back. The planetary magnetic fields collapse temporarily, which means all sorts of things go kind of wacky. You can sustain being on a planet when this happens and keep a stable reality field where you don't have harm come to you and don't have too bad of a hologram, if you can have your Merkaba spinning the right way. Your Merkaba creates a vehicle that buffers you from the more chaotic frequencies that are taking place within these kind of transitions. That's what we're going to create. So working with these technologies, the technologies of the ancients, the technologies of the founders, the technologies that have been entrusted to us, we are giving ourselves the opportunity to have an experience of many lifetimes where we actually have the potentiality of being able to make enough change of activation level in the DNA where we can make the angular shift of angular rotation of particle spin, where we can have the wondrous experience of going probably with a small group of people, like a little band of people going, we must be nuts, but we know it's real, we know we can do this, getting the call that it's time, that certain gates are opening, it's time to come through. There'll probably be a training period. That's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. This is the first time the guardians have ever had me present material. It was always like, well, in event of this, it's good to have this preparation. There was no, this is going to happen right now, so you need to do this. There was never that kind of urgency. It was never one of those doom and gloom, better do this type thing. It's not that now either. But they have said that because of the acceleration of the schedule, of the ascension schedule, the gate opening schedule, there are things the indigos need to wake up to really fast, which was their original job of learning how to not only go through yourself and have an open interaction at some point, probably in the next 3 to 5 year period, with at least one of the Eoni, the inner earth civilizations. They're very tall They look like humans, but they're very tall. And some of them look like us, but very tall versions of us, because they are us. If we're going to have that experience, we need to take the reality of sound as energy and frequency as the most powerful force in the universe. Sound, movement, light, combined with knowledge, with the intention of a pure heart, the intention of unconditional love, which is the state of vibrational harmonization that comes from your Christos intention and template. You combine those, we have the ability to not only get ourselves through, but to go through and participate in groups that are already meeting. Some people are having dreams about it already, or experiences in the astral where they found themselves in classrooms. Where am I? I'm in like some kind of classroom with a bunch of other people, and there's like people that look like ETs teaching us things. You know, some people look like humans are teaching you things. There's already the training sessions that are going on, and at some point they would become physical, where the ones of us who have made enough progress in shifting our angular rotation of particle spin, where we can get through and not flip out that, oh my God, I made it through to the Earth, wow, look at this. Like, you need to be able to get to the point where you realize, yes, okay, I made it through, I'll go jump up and down and like celebrate later. I got through at this point. Somebody help me because there's something really important that needs to be done. Okay, what? You know, there's a mission that has to do with getting the training to take the next step, which will be how to come back out, and there will probably be lists of individuals to contact, because not everybody is going to have a body that can go through. It's not, we want you and we don't want you. That's not how the eoni work. It's who has the tolerance level. Is there enough time for body A, B, and C to make the shift to go through? Because you're not going to take anybody through, or try to, that will explode upon contact with the frequencies, because their template will fragment, and so will their consciousness. You'll send them back to space dust, which is a long evolutionary process from here. The indigos will get a training period at some point that will probably start in the dream state and start to go into a meditation state if you're willing to keep the appointments. If you set an appointment time, okay, maybe once a week. I will just sit in the space and we'll talk about how to initiate telepathic contact, not channel contact. You will never ever be asked to channel or to do trance with any of the guardian groups, because you can harm yourself doing it and you don't know who the heck you're talking to. We endorse telepathic communication with the Maharic seal. As long as you use your Maharic seal, nothing can invade your fields. Because lots of things can say, hi, I'm a guardian. You don't know if it's a guardian or not. You know, if you use your Maharic seal, you're safe. But there will come a time when it's time to be in action. And the action is going to be literally helping groups of people here to get to the locations they need to go through. The locations they need to go through are Q zones. What we did in the room tonight actually set a certain set of sound frequencies in the planetary grids right here. That means when the gates to inner Earth open, that's before the halls of Mente, the gates to inner Earth are already starting to open. This would be a zone where pickups could be made, because it will create a frequency space that literally, it would be like kind of looking out in the trees and all of a sudden seeing a shimmering space that looks strange, and you start to think your eyes are playing tricks on you, and you go over and you can start to feel it. Where you'd be able to take people through that point and connect them with one of the main gates that take you into inner Earth, where it would take you into the crystal caverns, and you would go down in through spaces, and the person leading you would be the person who could see the gates first and who had already gone through them, that had the security access codes because of it. There will come times on the people who do not end up on Phantom Earth, and it will be small groups of people that make the shift. I was already warned about that there are so many people here that can't make the shift, that there may be the illusion of whole soul families leaving here before the fact, leaving their bodies, but getting their consciousness out while they can, so they don't get stuck here. There may be some interesting things that come up to the period of opening the halls of Mente that have to do with the political arena, that have to do with natural tectonic balances and things like that. There are going to be a lot of souls that want to get out of here and have the chance to, but they will not have time to get their DNA straightened out enough where they can take their bodies with them. Their soul levels know that. So if you see at any point in the next several years localized natural disasters that seem like really horrible, where whole groups of people died, how terrible, it wasn't their time. Yes, it was. They chose it. It wasn't inflicted, and they didn't have the consciousness in down here to realize that they chose it. They are going one way. Okay? They will get to the bridge zone, and they'll reincarnate in forms there. So they'll have bodies there. They'll be born as babies. So they'll get to be bridge zone babies in inner Earth, which is a great place to start. The teams that work with this particular program are the High Council teams, which means they're responsible for the evacs and for making sure the grids work the right way and the gates stay stable so pole shift doesn't happen. Because when grids are unstable in stellar activation, it can cause a real mess. The 3-day particle conversion is a natural part of it that can be a little hairy, but pole shift is a real mess, where everything just literally flies apart in the hologram and everybody gets flattened, and then somebody has to come in and clean up when it's all over and start over. That's happened a lot of times here on this planet. Our ice ages were all due to either full or partial ones that happened in and around events that had to do with stellar activation cycles. So we're being presented with an amazing opportunity that we'll explore more tomorrow as far as the I will share my knowledge with you thing. Tonight, we get to have some fun. When we go to the beach, we will talk a little bit more about the round tables and how to do them, and then we will start with the salutation, which is our personal Merkaba activation, getting the spin set the right way. And what we're going to do while we do that is use the Vesica Pisces symbol, where you have the top circle as the future and the bottom circle as the past, and you have the present as the little space where they overlap, and you put the D12 symbol code in each of those things, and then there will be a point where we're going to visualize that with the Merkaba spins that we're doing, and there will be a point in the Merkaba spins that we will take the image like that and turn it into the circle with the dot in the center, which is the full embedding point when the Merkaba spins hit critical mass. So these are some of the things we're going to explore on the beach tonight, and I'll try not to keep you up too late. I'm not too bad. I said, 6:30, and it's not even 7:30 yet, so it's really good, so I'm not a whole hour over. I hope you've enjoyed so far what we've covered. There's more to cover. There's more to cover on the big stuff on planetary level and the small stuff on where is it that my thoughts go when I think them, and what can I do to participate more consciously in that manifestation process and at least have an idea of where my thought forms are going to end up so maybe we can catch up with each other, that kind of thing. We'll talk more about those things tomorrow, and I will have the security release stuff, some of it, by tomorrow, which I have no idea what it is, but it ought to be interesting for them to have held it back this long. So I hope you have a good dinner, and I hope to see you on the beach tonight, and thank you. I love your singing, by the way. Thank you. And thank you, Michael, for running that. Did everybody sleep good? Good. No. All right. I ask that question sometimes after we work with Merkaba, because sometimes it'll kick up enough energy in your fields where it's very hard to calm yourself down to go to sleep afterward. It can create what are called kundalini activations, where the life force currents that naturally run up and down the back of your spine, like they go from they're called the cranial sacral currents. They run from the sacral, the base of your spine, all the way up your main vertical current into your head where your pineal gland is. And if you get enough energy going when you first learn to do Merkaba, it's still hanging out in your field once your Merkaba calms down and you're trying to go to sleep, and it can start to bring all sorts of feelings and stuff up from the emotional body that can agitate, but that clears. It's a clearing. So if you get a little bit of trouble sleeping when you start working with energies, it's not fun, but it's basically a good thing, because you're moving patterns through that were stuck in your template, in your body, your old cellular memory stuff that's called miasms, which are stuck parts of particle units that hold your memory from the past, and they have all sorts of sometimes achy feelings with them, and they can really agitate you, and they come up into your present, and you don't know what to do with them, and you don't know what they mean, and it can do all sorts of things with your energy fields. It doesn't always happen, but sometimes it does. Now, today's going to be interesting. There's a number of things that we need to cover. We're going to go through more information on thought, so we have a little better understanding of what exactly are these thoughts we're projecting out into our hologram. And as we understand more about thought, it'll bring us back to the point where we can understand a little bit more about what we're doing when we do roundtables. All right? This is kind of an interesting roundtable group, because when we had the Just for Roundtables workshop, we explained everything about what a roundtable was and how it worked and what your energy was doing while you were doing it. This one was kind of like, okay, let's just do this. Let's try it and experience it first. Then we'll explain what it was. You already have a reference point because you already went through the movements of it. Now, if you can get to the point where you understand what those movements meant, when you do the next one, you'll start to have the mental body participating more, and you will. It's like riding a bike. You already have one time where you went in and you got balanced. You're a little wobbly because you weren't exactly sure what you're supposed to do, but you did it. And it's kind of like some people are really hung up on a word called can't. Can't is not a word that I use in my existence because it simply says won't. You can't do anything. Now, no, you won't necessarily do it well the first time, but that's all right. You still did it. You still participated in it and got a piece of the memory in that you can then enhance and take into the future as a skill, and that applies to anything. Now, the round tables are very, very sacred works that can best be understood once we not only understand more about what thought is and how it works in our bodies as energy, and we need to also understand more parts of our body. Some people here have a full understanding of the Kathara grid because they've taken the Kathara courses and things. Others don't have that information. So we'll go through a little bit just so you realize once we talk about thought and what it is and what it is creating and how we get our hologram from it. Then we're going to go into looking at the simple body systems that are the projection devices for that thought. And then we get an understanding of the energy systems that we are using when we do things like run our Merkabas or do a round table. Once we understand how the energy is running and what the energies are that are running, then to understand the real significance of round tables, it helps to know a little bit of what the real human history is. These humans are an extremely ancient race. We have been fed a bunch of nonsense about our history here, and that's been done on purpose. So sometime this afternoon, I want to spend a little bit of time on going over what the real genetic lineage is of the human race, what we came here to do, because we came from elsewhere, and where that elsewhere was, what we came to do, and what has happened since 25,500 BC that has literally, instead of allowed us to evolve to the point where we could finish what we came to do so we could go on to the next experience, we have been stuck here and in a state that is far, far less developed than when we originally came. We've digressed here. There's a reason for it. When we start to understand the history that has taken place since 25,500 BC, it kicks up all sorts of different types of reactions from the emotional body. The easiest one is disbelief. I think I would just rather believe what we were told here, because when you look at the magnitude of what was going on, it's not just something that happened in the past of the hologram. It's something that is finalizing itself now. And the same dramas that were taking place 25,500 BC are right in our face right now. And there's evidence for them by looking at the New Age movement and the UFO movement. These movements aren't haphazard or sporadic or just happen to pop up in our hologram. These were a calculated intersection in time, and this is the time point that was chosen thousands of years ago to come back and finish certain things that were going to be done here. These were fallen angelic agendas. When we begin to see why we sit here in a state where we don't remember, as soon as we enter a baby body, first of all, we don't remember how we got into it. Because once our consciousness hits the DNA template that is now distorted because it's on this planet, it shuts out all of the memory of your higher self that you would normally bring in with you. When babies used to be born and the planetary grids were working well, they were born with a just cognition. They knew where they just came from, and they knew why they were here. They knew who their parents were this time, and they knew where they knew them other times. And children developed much more quickly. The brain developed differently because of it. Brainwave patterns were very different then. The brain size was very different, and brain function was very different. It was not just the brain that operated differently. The whole internal system of hormones, of organ systems, and how they were supposed to naturally act haven't done that in over 25,500 years, because there are distortions in the grids here that are being activated on purpose now to kind of go in for the kill. We're in a situation of a polarity drama, and we don't have to be attached to that to the point where we let it get us. Getting us means making us scared, making us feel disempowered, or that's not what it's about. But if we're going to heal anything, it comes down to how do you heal blockages from the past that pop up and haunt you in your present. You can heal those things. The first thing is what I talked about the other day. It involves engaged detachment. Now, if you don't engage and allow the feeling and allow the knowledge to be a part of you right now, you're not going to change a darn thing. You're simply going to say, I'm above and beyond that, and it'll just run you over because you're still part of the energy pattern of this earth. There's a lot of interesting karma programs out there being taught. Surrender your power to the karma lords, and they'll take care of it all for you. Or just do this, 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 and this, and you'll burn off all your karma in one lifetime. And then even though the whole world around you may be doing like really wacky things, you'll be fine. While you're on this planet, you will be affected by the energy patterns in the mass field and in the planetary grids. What I've not seen anybody deal with out there yet, as they're teaching all their masters' expertise about how you can get free from your karmic patterns so you can ascend, they don't teach you the effects that the race karma is having on everybody on the planet, that the planetary karma and the galactic karma is having. Those are the little secrets they don't bother telling you about. And those are why that even if you follow their ascension programs, you're still going to be sitting here wondering why you're still sitting here. All right? If you really want to have the opportunity to become enough of a master of your hologram to where you can have a shift in that hologram, where the reality space you're in now suddenly opens up to another one that you have a choice to go through. It takes a lot more than wishful thinking. It takes a lot more than saying, well, I just choose positive thoughts, so I don't have to worry about the rest of it. Oh, that person's stuck in polarity because they look at negative things. I don't like to talk about negative things. This is the stuff that's being fed to us in the New Age movement. The people that are getting manipulated by it don't realize it's being run by channels. The ones on the other side of the channels are the fallen angelic races who have had an agenda that has been running here since 22,326 BC. Decisions were made about increments in time when they would intervene to do specific things to get us up to the stellar activation cycle. We'd be in a certain condition by then because of what they did, and then they would come in, talk to the few of their chosen ones to get the wrong information out here, so we would assist them to take over the planet, basically. That's what's going on here. And it's really bizarre because we're so sheltered and almost immunized against dealing with what is really happening in our planetary and galactic history. We don't remember our history. We've been being fed history that says we came from apes, and then they fight with each other. Well, maybe it wasn't apes, maybe it was fish. Yeah, and if you just take it all back, they say it was pond scum. So we all had a common origin in the Big Bang that just happened to put molecules together and created things that were invisible and microscopic that collected and became pond scum, and they somehow ended up as fish things, and then they grew feet, and then they came up on land and somehow became us. Yeah, right. This is the stuff we're being fed about your origins. Now, that's the science side. On the other side is Adam and Eve started the whole thing. Who were these people? God created them. Which God? Because there's a whole bunch of them in the middle of fallen angelic fields that love to call themselves God and tell you that they created you when they didn't. Because they know that if you wipe somebody's memory out and they're scared and alone in a place and they don't know where they came from or where they're going, you come in and present a very beautiful face to them with loving thoughts that calm them down and make them feel safe. And then you tell them, we love you because we made you. You've got them melted in the palm of your hand. This is what's going on here. And it's really sad. Then you have the other groups of them that are like in the UFO movement. That's the New Age movement people. That's the line of nonsense that they're getting hooked into. And what's getting hooked into it is their thought bodies, which means they are taking those ideas. An idea forms a template, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. What does that template look like? What's it made out of? What does it become? How does it become the hologram? They are creating, what is happening in the New Age movement is the people, they're talking to the channels, and the other people that are listening to the people that are talking to the channels are getting fed a picture of reality. A picture of reality that involves ET races that are loving, that supposedly created us, that are planning to come in here and get us to do certain things with the Templar. While we have no direct Templar knowledge, so we couldn't tell if we're spinning something in the right direction or if we're spinning in the wrong direction, they're giving us the thoughts. Guess who's going to manifest it? They can't manifest it here. We're going to. We've been being fed a line, a story, a thought template that is not the accurate interpretation of the events that we are connected to. And in the New Age movement, there is a whole thought template being generated by literally thousands, probably millions of people at this point that is telling you that the Syrian Anunnaki races were the forefathers of the human race, that humans were evolved from primate evolution. They have implanted a history. They have implanted some little perks as far as, the angels will take care of you now because you talk to us and you work with us. As long as you're good, you'll be free. They promise you freedom. Whole thought pattern that they're setting. And if we start to understand that thought pattern is a template, that we're taking into our own template, they are controlling how we manifest our hologram. They want us to manifest a hologram that will allow them to insert themselves in here as the guiding force, where there's literally, at this point, I don't know if anybody watches the websites, I don't have time to do it much, but every once in a while somebody will send me something, did you see this? There's one group out there that's really, really doing well with their manifestation process. They have thousands and thousands of members. They're called Galactic Federation. Galactic Federation is a group of contacts who have mobilized a team of humans on the planet already. They're away teams. They have them organized. They've told them where pickup points are going to be. They have basically told them what they need to do when the time comes, and the little red button is pushed, and it's happening now. Right? There are people that love Galactic Federation. Ashtar Command is part of this crew. All right? Archangel Michael's matrix works with them sometimes, sometimes doesn't. What they don't know are these people are Anunnaki races that have come in to finish a thing they started in Atlantis. They planned to come in at this time. They have a long history with us, 90% of which was trying to take over the Templar. There's a bunch of humans out there now waiting for the next message from Galactic Federation as far as what they're supposed to do. Somebody sent me something a couple of months ago, it was like 2 months ago, maybe 3, that said, what do you make of this? This is one of the latest things. And I read the thing, and there was a line or two in there that said basically, when we come, we are preparing to come, and when we come, you are to listen without question. Because they put it in this like really sweet talk about how our governments are so corrupt and how we're just not running our planet the right way. So they're going to come in and they're going to instill a different type of government force. And of course we're just supposed to listen and don't question. Because there will be things that will be beyond our understanding that we just need to cooperate with. This was the message. That was the strongest message I've seen so far. They're up to something, which means the Anunnaki forces are up to something. They're planning to make some kind of move. Because they're literally mobilizing their thousands of people on the ground that can't wait for the next message from Galactic Federation because they think they're going to be saved. They think they're going to have buddies come in and fix the planet, and they're going to be first in line for the new jobs when everybody else gets kicked out of their offices. That's really what they're being led to believe. There's a whole other group that are dealing with direct UFO encounters with little gray things running around that aren't friendly, and there's a whole bunch of authors that are writing books about them, and they're giving prophecies now. Gosh, there's one lady, God bless her, she actually goes on a radio station and channels one of the Zetas, so the Zeta can tell everybody how things are going to be. Now, Zetas happen to be part of one of the insectoid races that are part of the Draconian matrix. They have a different agenda than the Anunnakis, but lately a lot of them have been starting to work together because the Indigos are waking up and we're a problem for them. Because we have in our cellular memory banks the real history coding, and we have the ability, if we get our Merkaba spinning it the right way, to literally, out of absolute just love, we don't fight, we love, and we transmit frequency from the higher fields that can clear whatever messes they try to make here. So we're in the middle of a process here that it seems like you come into a space like this where somebody explains to you the big drama we're in the middle of, and then you go back out the door and say, did I just enter warp time or something? Because it seems so different, the vibration of having this knowledge and knowing it is true, than going back into the world that you're used to with, the basic people you're used to, and we like to call them the sleepers. Some people call them the trance dancers, which are the people that just are into the 3D program. They don't know anything else. They go to work, they come home, they watch TV. That's really all their life is about. You come out with this kind of information, and you're on a frequency up here, and you'll find 90% of the people around you are on a frequency down here, and it feels really strange. Like, can I just be normal? Let me pretend I don't know this, so I can just get along with people. Because as soon as I open my mouth, they say something, and I say, what do you think about this? You don't want to know. You know what I mean? Because you know darn well that if you start to try to explain some of the higher frequency information to them, you can just tell by the look in their eyes that they're going to not only not understand, but some of them are going to turn on you. And they're going to decide they don't like you after all. And it's really sad if they happen to be like your mother, your sister, your brother, your spouse, or something like that, your children. It can be really sad. So you learn, the more you know, the more you tend to keep it to yourself, or find groups of people who do want to hear that frequency. So we're in the middle of a drama that will help us if we begin to understand what the elements of the drama are. And the biggest element that holds our power is the fact that we are thought generators. We are generating the hologram individually and in mass. The reason we all see a similar hologram, the reason we're not all on our own little planets that are hanging in space with nobody else on them, is because we have the tribal shield template. We have our DNA template. That's our Maharic shield template that holds our divine purpose. It holds our scalar template. Now, not inside of it, but kind of that lives inside of a larger set of scalar wave patterns that belong to the species, that belong to our race, and not just the ones that are on the planet now, the ones that started from the beginning, where the human race started, and where the human race finally leaves this time matrix. So we are connected through our tribal shield. It's a transharmonic connection in time, where when we begin to activate it, we're bringing in the ability to have our thoughts and the thoughts of all the other humans on the planet start responding to each other directly. We are seeing through the tribal shield a similar human experience. This is why science likes to investigate animals and things like that and how they perceive. And some animals perceive very differently than humans do. You can tell by the structure, say, of their eyes, what kind of light they're seeing. And this is because animals, like a fly, for instance, has those really strange eyes with the multifaceted. They do not see the reality hologram that we do. They see lots of little pieces of it all at the same time, which is kind of interesting, because they have the segmented eye lenses. Those eye lenses come from their template. They have a different template. So all flies will see similar. They'll have a similar range of what their senses do and how their hologram comes out. Same thing works with humans. If we only had our personal templates and we were dealing with the reality field of coming into a consciousness field and then projecting that out, we wouldn't even see each other. We'd just see ourselves reflected back. But because we all carry a piece of the species template, a piece of the planetary template, which means we're connected to all the other life forms that have ever lived here and ever will. We have part of that in there. So if there comes a time, we will be able to experience reality fields that the animals are experiencing them with us, like we are now. We're here with animals and we can see animals because we have part of that in our species template and in our planetary template. We wouldn't see the planet if we didn't have its template as on a microcosmic version inside of our own templates. So we get to see the same reality field because we all come from a common ground of templates that give you planet, galaxy, universe. We all have the coordinates down. Now it just comes to our individual template, where you put our individual template in, and that gives you the you individual self and individual life within that greater context. We wouldn't see the greater context if we didn't all share with the animals and with everything a core template that had the template of the Earth in it. And we wouldn't see Earth if we didn't have a part of the galactic template with us. So our templates are like the film that the projector light of our mind runs through to literally put the images we see before our faces in the hologram. What's really fascinating is the way it's done. Did you ever see the old movies where they had the timing a little off as far as how fast this film would run through the projector? And they'd walk like this. They'd have funny little movements. The movements weren't smooth. That was because the timing was different as far as how fast the film was running through the projector. When the light came through, it would determine what the movement looked like. If you stopped the movement of the film strip, you get a still picture. You start moving it, and eventually you would get it up to where the perceptions of the people around you are seeing it, so it would look like it's running in the same speed as you, so the movie would look like something you would see normally, like a person's normal movements. The speed of perception has to do with the flashline sequences that we're all composed of. We see the same time frames because we're following the same time rhythm. And there's a lot of smaller rhythms within it. When you come to this area, particularly now that the Stargate has begun its activation process, the Gruol point, which is the center control point for the planetary shields in density 1, the Gruol point has an extremely fast flashline sequence within the larger one that's like the planetary one right now. There's certain points on the planet that have faster flashline sequences than others, which means perception moves faster, which means time moves faster, which means if you're used to a system that's a timeline that's moving a little slower in your locality, you come here, you can get burned out really fast because it seems like time, like you're jogging to keep up with time. It can make you feel stressed. Time is a key element, and time is part of the illusion of the hologram. The illusion of the hologram is created. It would be just a stationary hologram if there wasn't something happening. So the consciousness, our consciousness, wasn't doing something to go from one still picture to the next frame. So we would get the movement from one moment point, to the next. There's a whole process that's involved about how one level projects, and it starts the minute you enter fetal integration here. We have a dimensionalized template, which means sequentially parts of the unified field are going to come and be projected out. As one gets projected out, it reflects light back to you, and it hits if they're little codes. Let's say you have a template, there's little codes. You have your first dimension 1 code. With your consciousness moving into the unified field, it projects that out, it gives you a moment point. That moment point, it's like turning around and looking at yourself, throws consciousness back at you. That hits the next little code that will be your next moment point, and your consciousness sees that hologram. But where does that one go that was there before? It's supposed to transmute. It's supposed to go into a different type of particle base. But what's been happening here is the moments that we would see as our past, the holographic picture we just moved out of, are not transmuting. They're not changing their particle base. They're getting stuck in our template again. So our past is literally continually manifesting as part of our present hologram, and we can't see it because our perceptions are blocked in a way in our templates where we can feel it and it's still affecting us. It's still a pattern that is in our template that is coming out here and bringing things to us. That it has a reciprocal projection here. A lot of the stuff that we can't figure out how in the world it's coming at us, what did I do to deserve that? It's not karma from way back when. It's the immediate right now in your hologram. You still have a part of a flash line, okay, a part of a scalar wave pattern, a template, that had to do with a different time sequence. It might be one from where you entered fetal integration here. It might be one that's immediately bleeding through right now from your co-resonant vibration with yourselves in the other time frames. But you're projecting it back out. You're not aware that it's there. You see your hologram, and it shows you that it's there. It comes back at you. What's really, really interesting is you cannot see something in your hologram that you don't have in your template. So if we're having experiences that we don't like, and we think we know our templates, and say, how could that happen to me? You don't know yourself as well as you think you do. There's something in your template. If we look at literally what is here right now, everything that you experience, you are responsible for. And that can be scary. Well, I didn't mean to make it happen that way. How did I do that? This comes down to what's been happening to the distortions in our DNA templates and what it's done to our hologram. Right now we walk around, it feels like the reality inflicts itself on us. There's stuff that, there's crime all over the place. There's all sorts of weird things that happen. And it's very hard to see how we have a relationship to making that happen, so we end up feeling victimized. We feel like, reality is just coming at us and it's trying to victimize us. It sets up a resistance to even wanting to be a part of the hologram. If we're manufacturing, each one of us, our own version of this hologram, and there are things coming at us in our lives that we don't like, that don't feel good, and you can't figure out for the life of you, okay, if I'm the manifester, why would I do this? How am I doing this? How am I creating these circumstances that don't feel good to me? You're doing it because you are like a projector bulb with a piece of film. And you see this much of the piece of film that you know that's yours, but the rest of it is coming from the subconscious levels, which are strands 1 and 2 in your own template. Because we have distortions in strands 1, 2, and 3 right now that literally make it so those strands can't communicate with each other, we have a subconscious mind that doesn't belong there. A part of our awareness that's projecting out the stuff we don't want to deal with, the chaotic patterns, is in need of healing. It's stuck in our second strand template. It's stuck in our emotional bodies. Our emotional bodies are manifesting most of our hologram for us when it's supposed to be the mental body directing the hologram and the higher parts. Right now we have the lower body directing the hologram and the mental body trying to figure out what in the world to do with it and trying to figure out how to find the higher body, so because the higher body can probably fix it. So we get stuck all over with fragments of consciousness. We have part of ourself here, a part of ourself down here, a part of ourself here, and they're all projecting stuff out. And we look at the hologram and go, and it becomes, it's a circus you have with yourself. Once you realize that, oh my God, it does work this way, doesn't it? You can't blame anybody for the way your hologram is manifesting. Because what you're doing is saying, here, hologram, you have my power. You have more power than I do. Well, obviously, you're letting that be so. If you're blaming anybody, you're not realizing that you are the creator. You're not realizing you are the creator because you have a template that is projecting this whole circus out here. And if you don't like what's in the circus, you're the one, the mental body, working with the knowledge of the higher self, is supposed to be able to choose who gets employed in the circus and who doesn't. What type of holograms are supposed to be out there and what's not. But right now we have the D1 physical particle body, and we have the D2 emotional body, which is also made of substance, but of a different nature that we can't see, or we have like this really weird blobby color thing walking around us all the time. They're manufacturing a hologram for us. Our subconscious minds are manufacturing the hologram. Our past is manufacturing the hologram of our present. And that's not the way it's intended to work. That's how we get trapped in it, where we don't know where we fit and we don't know how our thoughts are going to make any difference in the projection that's here. That's where we can try like heck and say, okay, I want to manifest this condition. And you can draw on your higher self. I know you're up there someplace, but you still feel a separation. You and your higher self feel different, because there's something blocking you from knowing that I am my higher self, just like there's something blocking you from saying, I am God right now. You know, I'm an ascended master, I'm a rishi, I'm also a subatomic unit of consciousness all at the same time. We have blockages in our perception that makes it feel like those parts of ourself that we are right now are away from us somehow, are different from us, or we haven't grown up yet enough to be them. But the thing is, in those areas where your higher consciousness lives, you're already grown up. You're already a master. But you feel like you're not because you're down here at a different frequency. Meanwhile, you have the nice little demons, little rugrats down in your emotional body and your physical body, manufacturing hologram for you. They're having a free-for-all. These are units of your consciousness that are parts of your personality, ideas that you've had that were never fully assimilated yet. They're little ideas, like baby ideas, but they have the same power as ideas that you have. Ideas have the power of accretion, which means they draw to themselves more of the like pattern until they fill out into a critical mass, where then they have the power to project. Now, whether you think a thought on a conscious level from here, or if you think it, if your body is thinking it, it will eventually hit a critical mass and begin to project into your hologram. The disease that is so common on this planet now, sickness, disease, death, these conditions were not supposed to be part of the human hologram. They're coming from the fact that there are so many distorted patterns stored in the strand 1 and 2 templates of the body right now that they all jumble up after a while, create a real mess of a template that has the power, it actually holds more power, it's drawn in more frequency than the mental body above it. So what it's doing, it literally takes energy from the mental body and it begins to project convoluted patterns out, which progressively, you're watching, as you watch your bodies get sick and die and age and things, you're watching the lower bodies actually sap their energy and twist the template, the natural template that was supposed to be there. Because the natural template for humans, for all things, actually